Have you ever felt that the more you give of yourself, the less others seem to notice? Perhaps you answer every call, say yes to every request, bend and stretch yourself until you no longer know where your own edges are. And yet, instead of gratitude, you are met with indifference. The more available you become, the more invisible you feel. This quiet sorrow weighs heavily on the heart, like a stone carried in silence. It is a suffering many know, but few dare to name. The pain of being overlooked because you are always there, always giving, always available. But there is another way. The old teachings remind us that life has rhythm, that love requires both closeness and distance. That value is not found in scattering yourself endlessly, but in honoring your own presence. In the words of the Buddha, if you truly love yourself, you can never harm another. To love yourself is not arrogance, it is wisdom. For when you respect your own presence, others begin to respect it too. Tonight, as you listen, let these words be a gentle companion. We will walk together through the garden of old wisdom. We will cross the bridges of silence and rhythm, and we will rest beneath the shade of stories told for centuries. And along the way, you may find that the burdens on your shoulders grow lighter, that the stone in your heart is set down, and that your breath becomes your friend again. If these words touch something in you, if you too have known the quiet exhaustion of being always available, I invite you to share a candle emoji, 1, in the comments. In this way, we form a circle of light together, each flame small on its own, but, when joined, a lantern in the dark. Now, let us begin with a simple story. There was once a monk who was known throughout his village for his kindness. He would carry water for the elders, sweep the temple grounds, teach children to read, and comfort those who were sick. No matter who asked, he said yes. His days were filled from dawn until night with the needs of others. And for a time, he felt noble, even proud. But slowly, he noticed that his body grew weaker, his mind grew restless, and his spirit felt empty. One day, while drawing water from the well, he collapsed from exhaustion. As he lay on the ground, villagers passed by, some grumbling that the monk was no longer reliable. Not one stopped to lift him. When at last he opened his eyes, the moon was shining above him. Its pale light washed over the temple courtyard, gentle and unhurried. And in that stillness, the monk understood what his heart had been missing. Even the moon disappears. Even the sun sets. Even the tide withdraws. Nothing in nature is always available. And that is why it is precious. From that night forward, the monk began to live differently. He still helped others, but he also allowed time to sit beneath the Bodhi tree, to listen to his own breath, to replenish his heart. Strangely, he found that people began to respect him more, not less. They listened when he spoke. They waited patiently for his time. His absence made his presence meaningful. So it is with you. You are not meant to be endlessly poured out, not meant to scatter your presence like petals in the wind until nothing remains. You are a living being, with rhythm, with pulse, with needs of your own. When you honor that truth, you do not become selfish, you become whole. Breathe gently now, as if each inhale gathers the pieces of yourself scattered through the day. and each exhale lays them softly before you. Whole again. Inhale, and gather your strength. Exhale, and feel the stone of exhaustion roll from your chest. Notice how your shoulders begin to soften, how the weight of constant availability loosens its grip. Notice how even your jaw unclenches, how the muscles of your face grow lighter, like petals opening in the evening breeze. In the quiet of this moment, allow yourself to imagine setting down every burden you have carried for others today. Perhaps it was a task, a request, a worry, or a demand. See yourself laying it gently on the ground beside you, not from anger, not from neglect, but from love. The ground can hold it for now. You are allowed to rest. The world does not collapse when you step back. The garden does not wither because the gardener rests. In fact, it is only through rhythm planting and pausing, watering and waiting that blossoms come. So too does your life bloom when you embrace the wisdom of pause. In another village, far from the monk's temple, there was a farmer who planted rice year after year without ever letting his fields rest. At first, his harvests were abundant, but with time, the soil grew tired, the plants grew weak, and the land bore little fruit. His neighbor, however, allowed one field to rest each season. Though it lay bare, it was not wasted. The rains replenished it. The worms turned the soil. And when it was planted again, the harvest was strong and nourishing. The monk's lesson and the farmer's wisdom are the same without rhythm. Life collapses. With rhythm, it endures. As you rest tonight, remember, you are not a machine to be switched on at every call. You are part of the great breathing of the universe, in and out, presence and absence, fullness and emptiness. To honor your rhythm is to align yourself with the very heart of nature. Breathe now as the tide breathes, rising gently, falling gently. In this rhythm, there is no demand, no urgency, no exhaustion. There is only life unfolding as it always has, without struggle, without grasping, without end. And so, let the first doorway of this journey open, the doorway of remembrance that you too are allowed to rest, that you too are worthy of respect, that your presence, like the sun and the moon, shines more brightly because it does not burn without pause. The restless heart that once believed it must give endlessly may now begin to soften. Like a pond settling after the rain, the ripples grow still. The water reflects the sky, and in that reflection, you may catch a glimpse of your true self, not scattered in fragments, but whole, luminous, and at peace. When you look at the world with weary eyes, you may wonder why your presence is so often overlooked, why your endless giving seems to disappear into the air like incense, smoke. Yet the truth is not that your presence lacks value, but that it is too constant, too available, too taken for granted, like the sun that rises faithfully each morning. It is only when it withdraws that we truly remember its worth. Imagine for a moment if the sun never set, if its light blazed in the sky without pause, day after day, without rest. At first, we might marvel at the brilliance, but soon our eyes would ache, our bodies would grow restless, our spirits would long for the cool blessing of night. Without darkness, there is no dream. Without shadow, no stars. The sun's gift is not only in its rising, but also in its setting. Its absence teaches us gratitude for its warmth. So too, with your life, when you are endlessly available, you are like a sun that never sets. Those around you stop noticing, they stop appreciating. They assume your light will always be there. But when you step back, when you allow absence to soften the edges of your presence, suddenly you are remembered. Your warmth is cherished. Your words are heard. There was once a story told in an old monastery about a teacher and his disciple. The teacher was known for his wisdom, but he spoke so rarely that many novices doubted whether he had much to teach. The disciple, curious and eager, followed him day after day, waiting for long speeches of wisdom. But the teacher mostly walked in silence, swept the courtyard, and drank his tea. Weeks turned into months, and the disciple grew impatient. One morning, he finally asked, "Master, why do you not speak more often? Shouldn't wisdom be shared every day?" The teacher looked up at the rising sun and said, "If the sun never set, would you still notice its light?" And then he fell silent again. The disciple was frustrated at first, but slowly he began to see the truth. The master's words, because they were rare, sank deeper. They were not scattered like sand in the wind, but placed carefully, like stones on a path. In their scarcity, they became precious. In the same way, your life, your time, your energy are precious. But when you give them without rhythm, when you flood the world with constant availability, they begin to lose their shape. People hear you, but they do not listen. They see you, but they do not look. Pause, hear. Feel the breath moving gently in and out of your body. Inhale, and imagine the rising sun warming your skin. Exhale, and imagine the sun setting behind the mountains, leaving behind a sky filled with stars. Feel the relief that comes with this rhythm, rising and setting, giving and withdrawing, presence and absence. This is the natural law of life, and you are part of it. Sometimes, you may fear that if you step back, you will be forgotten, that if you withdraw, even for a moment, love will vanish. But look again at the night sky. When the sun sets, does it vanish forever? No. Its absence makes way for the moon, for the stars, for dreams. And when it returns, its light is welcomed with joy. This is the truth of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. And because of that, everything is meaningful. Your presence is meaningful because it cannot and should not be endless. There is an old Zen parable of two monks who were asked to care for a temple lamp. One monk kept the lamp burning day and night, fearing that if the flame went out, darkness would swallow the temple. The other monk, however, allowed the flame to burn only when needed. At night, he let it rest, knowing that dawn would bring light again. In time, the temple's oil was depleted under the first monk's care, and the lamp grew dark forever. But the second monk, in his wisdom, kept the oil safe. His lamp burned steadily for years, always returning, always bright. You, too, are like the lamp. If you burn without pause, your flame will vanish. But if you rest when needed, Your presence will endure, strong and luminous. Breathe again. Inhale slowly, gathering the warmth of your own flame. Exhale, and allow the flame to rest, steady and calm. There is no need to blaze wildly. A steady light, tended with care, shines far longer. In Buddhist teaching, we are reminded of the middle way, the path of balance. Too much presence can suffocate. Too much absence can starve. But rhythm between the two allows love to grow deep roots. Just as the sun alternates with the moon, just as day gives way to night, so too must your giving be balanced by your resting. Imagine for a moment that you are standing by the shore, watching the tide roll in. The waves come forward, touch the sand, and then retreat. If the tide never withdrew, the beach would disappear. If it never advanced, the sea would wither. It is the dance between advance and retreat that sustains the world. Your life is no different. Your relationships, your work, your love all thrive when you honor this rhythm. Sometimes, absence speaks more loudly than presence. Think of the loved one you miss when they are gone. How their absence sharpens your awareness of their presence. Think of the silence after a bell rings. How the echo carries farther than the sound itself. Let this truth wash gently over you. You do not have to be always there to be loved. You do not have to be endlessly available to be valued. In fact, your worth shines brighter when you honor the rhythm of presence and absence. So tonight, as you rest, let yourself become like the sun. Rise when it is your time. Shine warmly when your heart is full, and when you need to set. Set without fear. Trust that your return will be awaited, cherished, and celebrated. Your life is not a duty to be endlessly performed. It is a rhythm, a dance, a breathing. Step forward, step back, give, and then rest. Speak, and then fall silent. In this rhythm, your true value is seen. Breathe now with the rhythm of the tide. Inhale, as if the wave is rolling in. Exhale, as if the wave is retreating, back and forth, rise and fall. No hurry, no resistance, just the eternal rhythm of life itself moving through you. And as you drift further into stillness, remember, even the sun must set to be loved again. So too must you step back to be truly seen. When we are young, many of us are taught that love means being always present, always available, always ready to meet another's need. Yet what we slowly come to realize is that love is not made only of presence, it is made also of space. Just as the stars are visible only because of the night sky that holds them, love, too, requires emptiness in order to shine. Without that space, closeness becomes suffocation, and affection turns into something heavy instead of light. Absence, then, is not rejection. It is the gift of space. There is an old story of a master flute maker in the mountains. Travelers came from far away to hear his instrument sing. When asked how he created such beauty, he held up a bamboo flute and said, "It is not the wood that makes the music. It is the emptiness inside. Without the hollow space, the flute is silent. Without the pauses between notes, the melody becomes noise. So it is with your life. You are not made valuable only by your actions, by your ceaseless giving, by the way you fill every moment. You are also made precious by the pauses, the silences, the times when you step back and simply allow space to be. Pause now. Feel your breath moving in. Feel your breath moving out. Notice that what carries the breath is not only the air, but the space it flows through. Without space, the breath cannot move. Without silence, no word can be heard. Without absence, no presence is cherished. Sometimes we fear that if we step back, those we love will forget us. But reflect. Have you not noticed that when a friend leaves for a time, their return is even sweeter? When a lover is away, their presence glows more brightly in your heart. Love does not vanish in space. It grows. It takes root in the soil of absence and blossoms more deeply when the season of return comes. There was once a young monk who adored his teacher. Every day he followed him, clung to his robes, sat beside him, and listened to every word. The teacher, patient at first, eventually smiled and said, "My son, if you sit too close to the fire, you will never feel its warmth." The boy did not understand. But when the teacher later sent him away for a week of solitude in the forest, he discovered the truth. Alone, he missed his teacher's voice. But when he returned, every word landed more deeply. Every silence between them was charged with meaning. In the gift of space, love became more real. Breathe again, slowly, with your inhale. Imagine drawing near, offering warmth. With your exhale, imagine stepping back, giving space, near and far, fullness and emptiness. Like the play of the universe itself, this is the dance of love, of respect, of true presence. In Buddhism, we often speak of interbeing, the truth that nothing exists alone. The flower needs the soil, the rain, the sunshine, and even the dark night to bloom. The cloud becomes rain, the rain becomes river, the river becomes tea in your cup. All are connected, yet none are clinging. There is togetherness, but there is also space. Without space, nothing can breathe, nothing can live. Your life too needs space. When you scatter your time endlessly, when you fill every corner with availability, you leave no room for love to deepen. Love suffocates without air. Respect fades when there is no boundary. But when you allow the gift of space, you become like the bamboo flute. Your presence sings, not because you are always full, but because you carry emptiness within you, and it makes your song beautiful. Imagine yourself as a vast sky. Clouds may come and go. Winds may blow across. The sun may rise and set, but the sky remains spacious. You are not just the clouds of your duties, nor the storms of your demands. You are the vast openness in which all things appear. Let yourself rest in that spaciousness now. Inhale, to feel the sky within you. Exhale, let your burdens dissolve into its openness. In this space, nothing is demanded, nothing is lacking. You are whole, simply because you are. There is a Zen saying, the silence between the notes is as important as the notes themselves. When you live without silence, without pause, without space, your life becomes noise. But when you embrace the spaces, your life becomes music. Think of the people you cherish most. Do you love them because they are always there, unchanging, unpausing? Or do you love them because the moments you share are alive? Because you know they will not last forever? Because absence has taught you gratitude? Love without absence is like a song without rhythm, like a garden without shadow. It cannot survive. So too must you learn to give yourself space, not as rejection, not as neglect, but as love. For when you rest, when you withdraw, when you nourish yourself in silence, you return fuller, more alive, more capable of love. Close your eyes gently now, and imagine sitting by a still pond at twilight. The water is calm, the air cool, the surface smooth like glass. You drop one pebble, and the ripples move outward, wide and soft. Then stillness returns. Without stillness, the ripples have no meaning. Without space, the movement is lost. You are the pond, you are the stillness, and you are also the ripple. And all of it is beautiful. You may have spent many years believing that to say yes is love, that to always be there is kindness. But love also speaks through no, through silence, through space. True kindness requires balance. The garden grows with both sun and shadow. The song sings with both sound and silence. And your life blossoms with both presence and absence. As you drift deeper into rest, allow this truth to root gently in your heart. Absence is not emptiness. It is meaning. It is the space in which respect grows, the silence in which love listens, the pause in which your soul returns to itself. You are not diminished when you step back. You are not forgotten when you rest. You are simply becoming music again, allowing silence to shape your song. Breathe softly, and let the gift of space cradle you. For so many years, perhaps you have been told that to be loved is to always say yes. From childhood, we learn that a quick agreement brings smiles, approval, perhaps even praise. And when we say no, we are met with frowns, disappointment, sometimes even rejection. Slowly, the heart learns to equate availability with love. We believe that our worth is measured by how often we can bend ourselves for others. Yet beneath this habit lies a paradox. For when every request is met with yes, the word loses its meaning. And when we never say no, we betray ourselves. And the love we offer becomes thin, strained, and weary. In Buddhist teaching, the middle way is spoken of often. It is the path that avoids extremes, the wisdom of balance. Just as a lute string pulled too tight will snap, and a string left too loose will make no sound, so too must our giving be tuned with care. Too much giving without pause, and we break. Too much withholding, and we grow cold. But with balance, with rhythm, with the courage to say yes and no at the right times, life plays its gentle music. There was once a monk renowned for his kindness. He never refused a request, no matter how small or how large. When asked to fetch water, he ran to the well. When asked to sweep the temple, he swept until his hands blistered. When asked to share his food, he gave away his bowl. The villagers admired him, calling him a saint. Yet, with time, they also began to expect his service, not with gratitude, but with assumption. And when his body grew tired, When his spirit felt heavy, he had nothing left to give. One day, another monk from a neighboring temple came to visit. Seeing the young man's exhaustion, he asked, "Why do you say yes to everything?" The weary monk answered, "Because if I say no, they will not love me." The elder monk smiled gently and said, "If their love disappears when you say no, it was never love at all. It was only convenience." These words pierced the young monk's heart like a bell sounding in the night. From then on, he began to practice discernment. When he could help joyfully, he said yes. When he could not, he bowed his head and said no with compassion. At first, the villagers complained, but soon they realized his yes had become more meaningful, more alive, more sincere. No longer was it an empty echo of duty. It was a true gift, offered from the fullness of his being. So it is for you. Every yes you give must also carry the truth of your no. Without the boundary of no, your yes becomes hollow, drained of life. But with balance, your yes becomes luminous, like a flame that warms because it is protected by the lantern's glass. Pause now. Place your hand gently over your heart. Feel the rise and fall of your breath beneath your palm. Inhale as if whispering yes to yourself. Yes to life. Yes to rest. Exhale as if offering a gentle no. A boundary. A refusal that is born, not of cruelty, but of compassion. Inhale, yes. Exhale, no. Notice how both belong. Both keep you alive. Life itself is a rhythm of yes and no. The tide says yes as it advances, no as it retreats. The day says yes with light, no with darkness. Even your body says yes with the beating of the heart and no with the pause between beats. Without the no, the rhythm collapses. Without the yes, it never begins. There is another story told of a hermit who lived deep in the forest. Travelers often came to him for advice, bringing their burdens and their questions. For many years, he answered everyone, saying yes to every request for teaching. But his words grew tired, his spirit worn. One day, a young seeker arrived, begging for guidance. The hermit looked into his eyes and said softly, "No." The seeker was stunned, but in that silence, sitting by the hermit's side with no words offered, he began to hear the forest, the rustling leaves, the flowing stream, the rhythm of his own breath. And in that quiet no, he received his greatest teaching. Sometimes, no is not a rejection. It is an invitation to listen more deeply, to find strength within, to discover that wisdom and love are not always handed to us, but revealed in the spaces we are given. So, too, with your life, your no creates space. It allows others to see you not as an endless resource, but as a being with rhythm, with dignity, with worth. And it allows you to discover yourself again, not scattered in fragments, but whole. Breathe gently. Imagine yourself standing at a crossroads. On one side, the path of endless yes, paved with exhaustion. On the other side, the path of endless no, cold and empty. But before you lies a third way, the middle way, where yes and no walk together like companions, each giving meaning to the other. Step onto that path now. slowly, peacefully, as if each footstep carried you closer to balance. In Buddhist thought, compassion is not about exhausting yourself. It is about giving from wholeness. A yes offered from emptiness is not compassion but sacrifice. A yes offered from fullness is kindness itself. And the no that protects your wholeness is also compassion, for it preserves the flame that makes kindness possible. As you rest tonight, let the paradox of yes and no cradle you. You do not have to always say yes to be loved. You do not have to always be available to be worthy. Your love is deeper, your presence more precious, when your yes is balanced by no, when your giving is balanced by rest. Feel your breath once more. Yes with the inhale, no with the exhale. Both are life. Both are love. Both are you. Look around you, not with hurried eyes, but with the gaze of one who sees deeply, and you will notice that everything in this world moves in rhythm. The sea does not cling to the shore, it comes forward, then retreats. The moon does not shine with the same face each night, it waxes and wanes, growing full and then gently fading. Even the seasons follow their dance, spring bursting forth, summer flourishing, autumn releasing, winter resting. Nothing is constant. Nothing holds itself rigid. And yet life thrives because of this rhythm. So, why do we imagine we must be different? Why do we push ourselves to give without pause, to shine without setting, to be endlessly available, as though we were exempt from nature's law? When you fight the rhythm of life, you suffer. When you honor it, peace returns. Once, there was a tide that refused to withdraw. The waters rose and rose, flooding the shore, covering the sand, pressing into the land. At first, the villagers rejoiced, thinking the abundance of water meant they would never thirst again. But soon their homes drowned, their fields were lost, and their joy turned to sorrow. Only when the tide learned to retreat did balance return. Only then did the sea become a source of nourishment rather than destruction. In your own life, availability without rhythm is like that tide that never falls. At first, it might seem generous, even nobler, but with time it overwhelms, and neither you nor those around you are nourished. But when you learn to move like the tide, forward with warmth, then back with rest, your presence becomes a blessing. Pause here. Place your attention gently on your breath. Inhale, as if the tide is rolling in, reaching forward with quiet power. Exhale, as if the tide is retreating, leaving space for stillness. Feel the body. Follow this rhythm, your chest rising and falling like waves against the shore. You are not apart from nature. You are nature itself, breathing in cycles, living in rhythm. The Buddha once taught that impermanence is not a cause for despair, but for peace. Everything changes, and in that change lies freedom. If joy were permanent, it would become heavy. If sorrow were endless, it would become unbearable. But all things move like the seasons, flowing, shifting, returning. To honor rhythm is to rest in the truth of impermanence. There is a Taoist saying, "Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force." The river bends around rocks, not by fighting them, but by yielding, by moving in rhythm. So too, may your life bend around obstacles without breaking. If only you move with rhythm, instead of resistance. A story is told of a farmer who struggled to grow his crops, impatient with the pace of the seedlings. He pulled at them each morning, hoping to make them grow faster. Of course, they withered and died. His neighbor, wise with age, allowed his plants to follow their natural rhythm. He watered them when needed, allowed the rains to fall, waited for the sun to shine, and in time his fields flourished. "You cannot hurry the seed," he said, "for life has its own rhythm, and to rush it is to kill it." Perhaps you too have been pulling at your own life, stretching yourself beyond your rhythm, exhausting your energy in the belief that constant giving will bring constant love. But like the seed, your spirit needs time to rest, to replenish, to be nourished. Without that rhythm, no harvest comes. Breathe again. Slowly, inhale with the patience of the seed. Exhale with the wisdom of the farmer who waits. Trust that life unfolds in its time. When you begin to live with rhythm, something extraordinary happens. Your relationships deepen, not because you are constantly present, but because your presence is rare and meaningful. Like the full moon that people gather to see, your words carry more weight, not because you speak louder, but because you also know the value of silence. Your love grows richer, not because you give endlessly, but because you give from fullness, returning always to your own well. Think of music. A drum beat without pause is noise. A song without rests is unbearable. But with rhythm, music becomes a dance, a heartbeat, a language that touches the soul. Your life too is music. Without rhythm, it is only noise. With rhythm, it becomes a song that heals. The nature of rhythm teaches us another truth. Nothing, not even absence, is wasted. The winter that seems barren is the very season that prepares the earth for spring. The waning moon that fades into darkness makes way for the crescent to appear. The breath that leaves you in exhale creates the space for the next inhale to arrive. In rhythm, everything belongs. In rhythm, nothing is lost. So, tonight, let yourself rest in this truth. You are not required to be endlessly present, endlessly shining, endlessly available. You are allowed to set. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to withdraw, knowing that in your return, your presence will be brighter, stronger, more meaningful. Picture yourself now as the moon, glowing softly in the night sky. Some nights you are full, radiant, bathing the earth in light. Other nights you are hidden, dark, unseen. Yet whether full or empty, the moon is never questioned. Its rhythm is its beauty, its absence, as sacred as its presence. So too is your rhythm, your beauty. Feel your breath again, rising and falling, waxing and waning, each cycle carrying you deeper into rest. Each cycle reminding you that you are part of the great rhythm of the universe, never separate, always whole. And as you drift further into calm, remember, life does not ask you to be constant. It asks you to be in rhythm. When you honor that, peace is yours. There is an image often spoken of in the old teachings, the image of a well. A well can offer water for many years, clear and cool, nourishing the life of all who come to drink. But what happens if too many buckets are lowered without pause? If water is drawn day and night, without allowing the underground springs to replenish, in time, the well grows shallow, the water muddy, and eventually, it runs dry. Your own heart is like that well. You may pour yourself out for others. Give your time, your care, your presence, and for a while, it feels generous, even noble. But if you do not protect the well, if you do not allow time for your own springs to rise again, soon the water is gone, and when the well is dry, not only are you left barren, but those who relied on you are left thirsty too. There was once a village where two wells stood side by side. One was guarded carefully, covered each night, so the water remained pure. It was visited only when truly needed, and its keeper allowed it time to refill. The other well was left open. Buckets plunged endlessly without thought. At first, people preferred the second well because it was easy, always available, always flowing. But in time, the water turned brackish, the bottom cracked, and the well dried up. The first well, protected with care, continued to give for generations. You, too, must decide which well you will be. Will you scatter yourself endlessly until your spirit is empty? Or will you honor the rhythm that allows you to keep giving, fresh and alive? To protect your well is not selfishness. It is wisdom. It is sustainability. Breathe slowly now. Inhale as if drawing cool water from deep within yourself. Exhale as if offering that water gently to the world. Inhale to replenish. Exhale to share. Notice how both are needed. Without the inhale, the exhale is impossible. Without the exhale, the inhale has no meaning. Sometimes, we confuse exhaustion with kindness, thinking that to give until we collapse is noble. But the Buddha taught that compassion must include oneself. Without loving kindness for yourself, your giving becomes strained, resentful, and heavy. True compassion flows like clear water, effortless, refreshing, abundant. But for that flow to continue, the source must be cared for. There was a monk who once took pride in always being the first to wake and the last to sleep, serving everyone around him. He believed his tireless labor was the purest form of practice. But one evening, his teacher found him collapsed on the temple steps, too weak even to rise for evening prayer. The teacher said softly, "You have mistaken exhaustion for virtue. To care for yourself is not to abandon others. It is to make your presence a lasting gift." These words touched the monk's heart like gentle rain on parched earth. He began to understand that tending to his own body, his own mind, his own spirit, was not neglecting others, but serving them more deeply. A dry well quenches no thirst. Breathe again, deeply. With each inhale, imagine the underground spring rising within you, clear and steady. With each exhale, feel the cool water pouring outward. But not all at once. Only as much as can be spared. Let your breath teach you the wisdom of balance. In everyday life, this may mean pausing before answering the phone, asking yourself if you are truly ready to give your time. It may mean allowing yourself silence before saying yes, so that your yes carries sincerity, not fatigue. It may mean resting without guilt, knowing that the well must refill if it is to remain alive. Imagine sitting at the edge of your own inner well. The stones are cool beneath your hands, the air quiet around you. As you look down, you see the water glimmering softly, reflecting the light of the moon. You lower a cup gently, slowly, respectfully, and bring it to your lips. The water is pure because you did not rush, because you allowed the well to rest. This is how your life may be when you honor your rhythm. There is a teaching in Zen: drink tea and rest. Such simple words. Yet, within them is deep wisdom. Rest is not wasted time. Rest is the replenishing of the well. Rest is the moment when the underground springs flow again. So, as you prepare for sleep tonight, allow yourself to let go of the need to be endlessly available. Allow the well to rest. Trust that the world will not collapse in your absence. Just as the village survived when one well was covered, trust that when you return, your water will be clearer, your presence more nourishing, your love more real. Breathe once more. Inhale. I feel the water rising within you. Exhale. Feel it flowing outward in calm streams. No rushing. No draining. Only rhythm. You are the well, and you are the water. Protect yourself. Replenish yourself. And in doing so, you give the world a gift far greater than exhaustion ever could. Imagine a garden where the sun shines without pause, pouring light upon the leaves day and night, never yielding to the coolness of shadow. At first, it seems abundant, but soon the blossoms wilt, the soil cracks, and the garden loses its life. Or picture the opposite, a garden kept only in shadow, without ever seeing the sun. No flowers bloom, no fruit ripens, and the soil remains damp and barren. A garden flourishes not in endless sun, nor in endless shadow, but in their balance, in their rhythm together. So too does love grow. It cannot thrive under constant exposure, nor can it survive in endless absence. It needs both moments of presence, warm and nourishing like sunlight, and moments of absence, cool and gentle like shade. In this rhythm, love takes root and blooms. When you are always available, love can become like a plant scorched under an unrelenting sun. The other person may take your presence for granted, expecting it as naturally as daylight, no longer cherishing it as a gift. But when you step back, when you create space, your presence becomes meaningful again, like sunlight returning after the night. There was once a gardener who believed his plants could only grow if he watered them constantly. Morning, noon, and evening he poured water into the soil. At first, the plants flourished, but soon their roots weakened, unable to find their own strength. Their leaves drooped, their blossoms faded. The gardener, desperate, went to an old monk for advice. The monk smiled and said, "Your plants are drowning, not growing. They need water." Yes, but they also need space. They need sun. They need wind. They need the quiet strength of roots searching through the soil. Too much care can become harm. The gardener stopped his constant watering, and in time, the plants grew strong, their blossoms opening in balance with the rain and the sun. And so he learned that true care is not endless giving, but wise giving, guided by rhythm. Pause here. Let your breath carry you into stillness. Inhale. Imagine the sunlight warming your skin. Exhale. Imagine the coolness of shade covering you, soothing you. Notice how both feel necessary, how both belong. You are not meant to live in only one. You are meant for balance. In Buddhist teaching, the lotus is often a symbol of awakening. It blooms not in perfect conditions, but in the mud, where light and shadow meet. The lotus rises through dark water toward the sun, but it needs both the nourishment of the mud and the blessing of the light. Without shadow, no roots. Without light, no blossom. Love, too, is like the lotus, needing both closeness and distance, both giving and resting. Sometimes we imagine that love requires our constant presence, that if we step away, the bond will weaken. But true love does not vanish in absence. It breathes in it. Think of the beloved who travels away for a time. Do you forget them, or does your heart carry them even more tenderly? Distance awakens longing, and longing deepens love. A story is told of two lovers who feared being apart. They clung tightly to one another, never leaving each other's side. But soon, their closeness grew heavy. Their love suffocated. One day, an old sage said to them, "If you wish to keep the flame alive, let the wind pass through. Do not shield the fire with your hands so tightly, or you will smother it. Step back and let the flame breathe." They listened, and in allowing space, their love grew stronger, steadier, more enduring. Breathe gently now. Inhale and feel the warmth of presence, the closeness of love. Exhale and feel the cool relief of space. The gift of absence. Both are love. Both are needed. Both allow the heart to bloom. Even in music, beauty lies in rhythm. A note held too long loses its sweetness. Silence too long becomes emptiness. But when sound and silence alternate, the melody awakens the soul. Your presence is like the music of a song. Without pause, it becomes noise. With rhythm, it becomes unforgettable. As you drift into deeper rest tonight, let yourself imagine walking in a quiet garden. The sun filters gently through the leaves, shadows dancing on the ground. You hear the whisper of wind, the trickle of water, the pulse of life in balance. In this garden, nothing is forced. The flowers do not strain to bloom. They open naturally when the time is right. The trees do not cling to their leaves forever. They let them fall in autumn, trusting that spring will return. You too are a garden of shadow and light. You too are meant to bloom in rhythm, not in constant exposure. Allow yourself to rest in the shade when you are weary. Allow yourself to shine in the light when you are full. Both are part of your beauty. Remember, this love does not die in absence. It deepens. Respect does not fade when you step back. It grows. And you, too, do not vanish when you rest. You become more whole, more alive, more radiant. So tonight, as you surrender to sleep, let your life become like the garden sun and shadow, presence and absence, both held in gentle balance. Trust that your rhythm is enough. Trust that your pauses are not emptiness but nourishment. Trust that you, like the lotus, will bloom in your own time, carried by both light and darkness. From the time we are children, many of us are taught that to be good is to be agreeable, to be kind is to be helpful, to be loved is to be endlessly available. We learn to say yes before we even pause to feel what the heart truly wants. We learn to put aside our own needs so that others may smile. Slowly, this habit becomes our way of living, always bending, always giving, always serving. And yet, beneath the surface of such constant giving, the heart begins to ache. For in pouring ourselves out without end, we forget that kindness must also include the one who gives. There was once a monk who took great pride in being the most helpful in his monastery. He rose before the sun to fetch water for the elders. He cleaned the floors. He taught the children. He stayed awake at night to comfort the sick. His brothers admired him, praising his tireless service. Yet in his private heart, the monk grew weary. His body weakened. His breath grew shallow. His joy faded like a candle burning too long. One evening, while he was sweeping the temple courtyard, he dropped his broom and sat down, too tired to continue. His teacher approached and asked softly, "Why do you drive yourself so?" The monk answered, "Because if I stop, they will think I am selfish. They will not love me if I rest." The teacher placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "My son, when you forget to care for yourself, you do not give love, you give only your exhaustion. That is not kindness. That is forgetting the truth." Those words were like a bell ringing through the dusk. The young monk began to see that endless service was not true compassion, but a burden he placed upon himself, born of fear. Perhaps you too have carried this burden. Perhaps you know the quiet heaviness of always being the one others call, the one who never refuses, the one who bends until the spirit feels thin. And perhaps, in your silent moments, you have felt the ache of being unseen, the loneliness of giving until nothing remains. Pause now. Inhale slowly, feeling the weight of every demand you carried today. Exhale and imagine setting down one stone. Inhale again. Another stone rises in your chest. Exhale and set it down. With each breath, your load grows lighter until you find yourself standing free, no longer bent beneath invisible weight. Buddhist teaching reminds us that compassion must be like a circle. It flows outward, but it must also return inward. To give without including yourself is to break the circle. A garden cannot grow if the gardener never rests. A candle cannot light others if it burns until nothing remains. There is a parable of a traveler who came across a man carrying bundles of wood far too heavy for his shoulders. The man stumbled, sweat pouring from his brow. But when the traveler offered help, he refused. "I must carry it all myself," he said, "for this is my duty." Eventually, the man collapsed, unable to move, the burden crushing him. The traveler shook his head and whispered, "It was never the wood that was heavy, but your refusal to lay some down. So too with you. The burden you carry may not be the requests themselves, but your fear of setting them down, of saying no, of resting. Yet to refuse every rest is to invite collapse, and collapse does not serve you, nor does it serve those you love. Breathe again, deeply, Inhale as if drawing strength from the earth beneath you. Exhale as if releasing the burdens into the soil, trusting the earth to hold them for now. Notice the relief in your chest, the softening of your shoulders, the way your breath begins to move more freely. Imagine yourself walking along a forest path, carrying a basket filled with stones. With each step, you place one stone gently by the roadside. At first, the basket is still heavy, but with time, it grows lighter. By the end of the path, you carry only yourself, free and unburdened. This is what it means to care for yourself, not to abandon others, but to set down what no longer belongs on your shoulders. The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." These words are not selfishness, they are truth. When you forget yourself in endless service, you betray your own worth. When you remember yourself, you discover that your love can flow again, not as exhaustion, but as a gift. Perhaps the hardest part is this: when you begin to set down your burdens, others may resist. They may call you selfish. They may accuse you of changing. But remember, it is not selfishness to refill your well, to rest your body, to honor your rhythm. It is wisdom, and true love will not vanish when you rest. True love will learn to honor your boundaries. So, tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine every demand, every request, every weight you have carried, turning into a stone, one by one. Set them down beside you. You need not throw them away. Simply rest them on the ground, knowing they can wait. Feel your arms grow lighter, your breath deeper, your heart freer. You are not here to carry the world upon your back. You are here to walk with it gently, to share your presence when your heart is full, and to rest when your body calls for peace. Let this truth guide you into sleep. Endless service is not compassion. True compassion is a balance for others and for yourself. And when you find that balance, the burden you once carried becomes a path beneath your feet, leading you home to peace. Close your eyes and imagine a melody, soft and flowing, perhaps played on a flute or a gentle string. At first, you notice the notes, the sound that carries emotion and beauty. But listen more deeply, and you will realize that it is not the notes alone that create the song. It is the pauses between them, the silence that holds the sound. Without silence, there would be no rhythm, no shape, no meaning. There would only be noise. So too is it with your life. If you are always speaking, always moving, always giving, your presence becomes like endless noise, felt but not cherished. But when you allow pauses, when you embrace silence and absence, your presence transforms into music, a song others can hear, remember, and hold close to their hearts. There was once a great bell in a temple at the edge of a mountain. The monks struck it each morning to call the villagers to prayer. For many years, the bell rang only once at dawn, its sound carrying across the valleys, echoing through the forests, touching even the hearts of those who lived far away. But a new monk, eager to serve, decided that if one strike could inspire devotion, then many strikes would bring even greater reverence. He struck the bell again and again, morning to night, until the sound filled the village without pause. At first, the people listened, but soon, the ringing became background noise. They stopped noticing it. What once brought awe, now brought irritation. The beauty of the bell was not in its constant ringing, but in the silence that gave its sound room to breathe. Your life is like that bell, without pauses, without moments of stillness, without silence. The beauty of your presence is lost in constant noise, but when you step back, when you honor the silence, your presence carries weight, depth, and meaning. Pause now. Breathe slowly. Inhale as if you are drawing in a gentle note, clear and true. Exhale as if releasing into silence. Feel how the music of your breath depends not only on the sound, but on the space between. Let this rhythm cradle you. A song of presence and absence, both belonging, both beautiful. In Buddhist practice, silence is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is the fertile ground from which wisdom grows. Think of meditation, where the silence between thoughts becomes a vast sky, and in that sky, clarity arises. Silence is not a lack, but a presence more profound than words. There is a Zen story of a student who asked his master, "What is truth?" The master did not answer. He simply sat in silence. The student grew restless, repeating his question. Still, the master remained silent. Finally, after many moments, the student's mind grew quiet, and in that silence, he understood. Truth had been there all along, hidden not in words, but in the stillness between them. You too may have been taught that to be valued, you must always make noise, always act, always serve. But consider, is it not in silence that we feel the deepest presence, a friend sitting beside you in quiet comfort, the hush of dawn before the birds begin to sing, the stillness of the night sky, vast and infinite. In these silences, we do not feel emptiness. We feel wonder. Breathe again, slowly. Inhale, and hear the note. Exhale, and rest in the silence. Both are life. Both are love. In relationships too, silence carries meaning. A partner who is always speaking may drown the beauty of their words, while one who knows when to fall quiet allows each sentence to bloom like a flower in spring. A parent who hovers endlessly over a child may suffocate them, while one who knows when to step back allows the child's spirit to grow strong and free. In the silence, love deepens. Imagine for a moment that your life is a piece of music written by the universe. Each act of kindness is a note, each word of care, a tone. But the universe also writes pauses, rests, silences into the score. Without those, the music could not exist. Your pauses are not mistakes. They are part of the song. There was once a poet who wrote of the moon. He said that its beauty was not only in its glow, but in the darkness that held it. Without the dark sky, the moon would be invisible. Without silence, no one would hear its song of light. Absence does not diminish presence. It gives it form. So, as you lie here tonight, allow yourself to enter the silence between notes. Your day has been filled with sound, with activity, with endless giving. But now, you are invited into the pause. In this pause, Your worth does not vanish. It deepens. In this silence, you do not become invisible. You become music. Feel your body soften into stillness. Let your breath slow, like a song nearing its quiet close. Inhale, a note of presence. Exhale, a silence that holds it. With each cycle, you are cradled by the rhythm of life itself, the eternal song of sound and silence. Yes and no, presence and absence. Remember this, you are not here to ring endlessly like the bell until no one hears. You are here to sound when the moment is right, to rest in silence when needed, to let your life become music rather than noise. As you drift deeper into rest, let silence hold you like the night sky holds the stars. Let the pauses in your breath remind you that your worth is not in endless doing, but in the rhythm of being. If you look to the sky tonight, perhaps you will see the moon. Some nights it shines round and radiant, bathing the earth in silver light. Other nights it is only a thin crescent, or hidden entirely in darkness. Yet we do not fear that the moon is lost. We know it is simply moving through its rhythm, waning and waxing, appearing and disappearing. Its beauty is not diminished when it grows thin. In fact, its rhythm is what makes its fullness so breathtaking when it returns. Your life is like that moon. You are not meant to shine at every moment. You are not meant to be always visible, always present, always available. There is wisdom in retreat, in waning, in stepping back into the quiet of darkness. Just as the moon teaches us, absence is not an ending. It is part of the cycle of return. There is an old story of a villager who feared the dark nights when the moon disappeared. Each time the sky turned black, he worried that the light was gone forever. He would climb the hills and call out to the heavens, begging the moon to return. But an elder in the village told him, "Do not grieve the darkness. The moon has not abandoned us. It is only resting, only preparing to shine again." The villager learned to trust the rhythm, and in doing so, he found peace in the nights of emptiness, knowing they were part of the moon's dance. So too, may you learn to trust your own rhythm when you withdraw, when you rest, when you step back from the endless demands of the world. You are not vanishing. You are replenishing, preparing to shine again. Your absence, like the moon's, does not erase your worth. It deepens it. Pause here. Inhale as if gathering light into your chest. Exhale as if letting the light wane, growing softer, dimmer, until you are wrapped in darkness. Inhale again, a crescent beginning to glow. Exhale, and allow yourself to rest in shadow. Notice how both are necessary. Both are sacred. In Buddhist teaching, impermanence is not to be feared, but embraced. Everything changes: the seasons, the tides, the moon, even our own hearts. But in this change lies freedom. When you accept that you cannot always be full, you stop grasping. You allow yourself to breathe with life as it truly is. Consider the tree in winter. Its branches are bare, its fruit is gone, and to the hurried eye, it might look lifeless, but within its stillness, deep in its roots, life is preparing to rise again. The bare branches are not failure, they are rest. And when spring comes, blossoms appear more radiant for the season of silence that came before. So too, with you, your times of absence are not failure. They are seasons of rest, gathering strength for the return of your fullness. There was once a monk who served his temple tirelessly. He taught every day, spoke to every visitor, guided every novice. His words were wise, but over time, they grew repetitive, dull. One day, he chose silence. For an entire month, he did not speak, did not teach, did not offer advice. The novices grew restless, thinking the master had abandoned them. But when at last he spoke again, his words carried a depth and freshness they had never heard before. In his absence, wisdom had ripened. In his silence, presence became meaningful again. Perhaps you too have feared stepping back, believing that if you do not shine constantly, you will be forgotten. But remember the moon. Do we forget it in its absence, or do we long for its return? Marvel at its glow when it reappears. Your absence can have the same effect. It is not erasure, it is preparation. Breathe gently now. With each inhale, feel yourself waxing, growing brighter. With each exhale, feel yourself waning, softening into rest. Trust this rhythm. Trust that you are not diminished by your cycles. You are part of the great breathing of the universe. In love too, this rhythm is sacred. Lovers who cling too tightly suffocate the flame. Lovers who vanish entirely starve the bond. But lovers who move like the moon, together and apart, present and absent, full and waning, keep their love alive. The rhythm teaches both cherishing and longing, presence and gratitude. Imagine yourself now lying in a field. The night sky stretched wide above you. The moon moves through its phases: thin crescent, half circle, full sphere, then fading again. Each phase has its beauty. Ach Phase belongs. So too does every phase of your life belong. You need not always be full to be worthy. You need not always give to be loved. As you drift into deeper rest tonight, carry this truth with you. You are like the moon, sometimes bright, sometimes hidden, always returning, always whole. Your absence is not your end. It is your rhythm, and when you honor it, peace flows back into your heart like silver light across still water. There is a saying among the old sages: love is like a flame. Hold it too loosely, and it fades. Hold it too tightly, and you smother it. Only when you allow the flame space to breathe does it burn steady and warm. So it is with our relationships. We may believe that being endlessly present, endlessly available, is the way to prove our love. But the truth is, when we cling too tightly, love begins to suffocate. There was once a child who found a small bird in the forest. Its feathers shimmered in the sunlight, and its song filled the air with sweetness. The child loved it so much that he feared letting it fly. He cupped the bird in his hands, holding it close against his chest. But in his fear of losing it, he held too tightly. The bird struggled. Its wings pressed down, and soon its song fell silent. Only when the child finally opened his hand did he realize that love must be free to breathe, to fly, to rest in its own rhythm. Perhaps you too have known this. Perhaps you have clung to a friend, a partner, a family member, afraid that if you step back, the bond will dissolve. So you gave and gave, never withdrawing, never pausing, never letting silence enter. And yet, instead of deepening, the relationship grew heavy. The flame dimmed, the joy faded. For love is not strengthened by constant grasping. It is nourished by trust, by space, by the rhythm of closeness and distance. Pause here. Place one hand softly upon your chest. Inhale, feeling the warmth of your own heart. Exhale, as if opening your palm, releasing the bird within you to fly free. Inhale again, and trust. Exhale, and let go. Notice the ease that comes when you do not cling. In Buddhist teaching, there is a deep truth called non-attachment. It does not mean we do not love. On the contrary, it means we love more deeply, because our love is not bound by fear. When we release our grip, when we let go of control, we allow others to be who they are. And in this freedom, love grows wings. There is a story of two monks who walked side by side for many years. One day, one monk said to the other, "Brother, I fear that if you ever leave, I will not survive. You are my strength, my light, my everything." The other monk stopped and replied, "If you cannot survive without me, then you do not see me. You see only your need." True love is not clinging. True love is freedom. From that day forward, the first monk began to practice letting go. And slowly, he discovered that love without clinging was more radiant, more peaceful, more enduring. In your own life, notice how love feels when it comes from fullness versus when it comes from fear. When you give because your heart is full, your love is light, joyful, effortless. But when you give because you fear being forgotten, your love is heavy, anxious, and strained. To stop clinging is not to stop loving. It is to love with open hands. Breathe gently now. Inhale, and imagine holding a flame in your palms. Exhale, and open your hands slightly, letting the flame breathe, letting it glow brighter. Inhale again. Trust that it will not vanish. Exhale, and give it space to shine. In relationships, silence and absence can be as important as words and presence. Lovers who sit together in quiet stillness often share a bond deeper than endless chatter could create. Parents who allow their children to stumble and rise on their own raise strong and resilient souls. Friends who respect each other's space often find their connection lasts a lifetime. Think of the moon and the sun. They love the earth deeply, yet they do not cling. Each takes its turn, one shining, the other resting. Their rhythm sustains all life, precisely because they trust one another enough to step back. As you lie here tonight, allow yourself to soften into the truth that love is not lost when you release your grip. It becomes stronger. You are not less loved when you step back. You are cherished more deeply. There was once a sage who said to his student, "If you truly wish to love, love as the wind loves the bamboo. It bends and sways, yet it is not broken. The wind does not cling, yet the bamboo always remembers its touch. So too, may your love be like the wind, gentle, free, and unforgettable." Close your eyes now and imagine a bird resting lightly on your open palm. You do not grasp it. You do not force it to stay. You simply allow it to rest, to fly when it wishes, to return if it chooses. In this freedom lies true connection. In this openness lies true peace. As you drift further into rest, carry this truth with you. To love without clinging is to let the flame breathe, to let the bird sing, to let the heart blossom in its own rhythm. Trust the rhythm, trust the freedom, trust the love that grows stronger when given space to breathe. There is a difference, subtle yet fast, between love that flows from fullness and love that drips from exhaustion. When you give from fullness, it is like water pouring from a brimming jar, clear, abundant, and effortless. But when you give from exhaustion, it is like scraping the bottom of an empty vessel. Each drop a struggle, each act leaving you more barren than before. Perhaps you have known both kinds of giving. Perhaps you have felt the ease of offering kindness when your heart was rested and full, when you smiled because joy rose naturally within you, when your words of comfort came as easily as breath. And perhaps you have also known the weariness of giving when your body was tired, when your spirit longed for silence, when your heart whispered no, but your lips said yes. That kind of giving feels heavy, and though others may receive your help, something within you is lost each time. There was once a monk who lived by a river. Every day, villagers came to him for guidance, for healing, for blessings. He gave all that he could, never refusing anyone. But slowly, his energy waned. He grew pale and weak, his words dull and lifeless. One evening, he collapsed. When he awoke, an elder monk sat by his side and placed a bowl of rice in his hands. "Eat," the elder said. The younger monk shook his head. "I must serve them first." But the elder replied, "If your bowl is empty, what will you share? Fill yourself first, and then your gift will be true." From that day forward, the monk learned to nourish himself. He ate when he was hungry, rested when he was weary, meditated when his spirit called, and in that fullness, his service returned to life. His words carried light. His blessings felt deep. His presence was no longer a burden but a gift. Pause here. Breathe slowly. Inhale, as if filling your bowl with light, clear and warm. Exhale as if offering that light gently, not from strain, but from abundance. Inhale to receive. Exhale to give. Notice how giving becomes softer, easier, when you allow yourself first to be full. In Buddhism, compassion is never meant to be self-erasure. Loving kindness, or metta, begins with oneself. Without self-love, your kindness for others cannot endure. It becomes a performance, a duty, a mask over your own emptiness. But when you truly care for yourself, when you refill your well and fill your bowl, your compassion becomes effortless. It flows like a river, steady and unforced. There is a parable of a woman who kept 2 lamps in her home. One she tended carefully, refilling its oil each evening before lighting it. The other she neglected, allowing it to burn until the oil ran dry. The first lamp shone faithfully, casting a warm glow night after night. The second sputtered and died, leaving her in darkness. A lamp cannot shine. she realized, if I forget to tend to its oil, you are that lamp. Your love is the light. Without oil, without rest, nourishment, and care, your flame cannot endure. To tend to yourself is not selfish. It is necessary if you wish to keep shining for others. Breathe again. Inhale deeply, as though drawing oil into your lamp, replenishing your strength. Exhale gently, as though your light is glowing softly, steady and warm. Each breath a rhythm of filling and shining, receiving and giving. Think of the times when you felt most alive in your love. Were they not the moments when you were rested, peaceful? Whole love given from fullness is light and joyful. Love given from exhaustion is heavy and brittle. When you learn to honor your limits, you give a love that is true, not forced. A teacher once told his students, if your love feels heavy, stop, rest, breathe. Love is meant to feel like the rising of the sun, not the dragging of a stone. His words lingered with them, reminding them that the heart must be filled before it can overflow. As you lie here, preparing for sleep, imagine your heart as a bowl. Perhaps today it has been emptied by demands, by duties, by endless giving. Now, allow it to refill. With each inhale, imagine golden light pouring into the bowl, warm and gentle. With each exhale, see the bowl glow softly, promising to share its fullness when the time is right. You do not need to give tonight. You do not need to be available or present for anyone else. Tonight, your only task is to refill, to nourish, to become full again. And when you rise tomorrow, your love will flow freely, not from exhaustion but from joy. Remember this truth: love given from emptiness is a burden, but love given from fullness is a gift. Do not fear to rest. Do not fear to say no. Each moment of rest is oil for your lamp, water for your well, light for your heart. And when you honor this, your love becomes deep, radiant, and alive. So breathe gently now, letting each breath be a blessing to yourself. Inhale, fullness. Exhale, peace. Inhale, nourishment. Exhale, rest. And in this rhythm, you return to yourself, whole and complete. Have you noticed how the words of those who seldom speak seem to carry more weight? A person who speaks endlessly may be heard, but not always listened to. Yet when one who is usually quiet finally opens their mouth, every syllable seems to land more deeply, as though silence itself has carved space for the truth to enter. There was once an elder monk in a quiet mountain temple. He rarely spoke, preferring to tend the garden, sweep the paths, and sit beneath the pines in stillness. The younger monks grew impatient with his silence, whispering among themselves that perhaps he had no wisdom at all. But one day, during a heated debate in the hall, the elder simply lifted his head and spoke a single sentence. The flower blooms not because it argues with the soil, but because it rests in it. His words ended the quarrel. The monks fell silent, each feeling the truth ripple through their hearts. From then on, they listened more closely, not only to the elder's rare words, but also to the silence that surrounded them. So it is with your own presence. When you are endlessly available, endlessly speaking, endlessly pouring yourself out, Your presence begins to fade into background noise. But when you withdraw, when you let silence gather around you, like still air around a bell, your presence becomes more vivid, more cherished, more deeply felt. Pause here. Close your eyes gently. Inhale, and imagine filling yourself with quiet strength. Exhale, and imagine releasing unnecessary words, unnecessary noise. Inhale silence. Exhale peace. Let your body rest in the stillness that gives meaning to every sound. In Buddhist practice, there is something called noble silence. It is not simply the absence of words, but the presence of awareness. When you are silent, you hear the rustle of the leaves, the whisper of the wind, the pulse of your own heart. You begin to listen not only with your ears, but with your whole being. Noble silence is not emptiness, it is fullness, rich with life. Think of music again. A song without pauses is unbearable. It is the spaces between notes that create melody, so too with words. Without silence, speech is shallow. With silence, it becomes profound. There is a parable of a wise woman who lived on the edge of a forest. People traveled far to hear her speak, but when they arrived, she often said very little, sometimes nothing at all. Many were disappointed, turning away, thinking she had wasted their time. But those who stayed, those who sat with her in the silence, began to notice something shift within themselves. They began to hear their own thoughts more clearly, to feel their own hearts more deeply, to sense the world more fully. And when the woman finally did speak, her words carried the power of mountains, not because they were many, but because they were rare. You too may discover that when you stop flooding the world with your constant availability, your presence becomes like that rare word, noticed, remembered, treasured. Breathe again. Slowly. Inhale as if gathering silence into your lungs. Exhale as if releasing the clutter of noise. Notice how even your breath has pauses. The small space between inhale and exhale, in those pauses lies peace. Sometimes we fear silence. We fear absence. We fear that if we are not speaking, not acting, not present, we will be forgotten. But silence is not erasure. It is invitation. It invites others to listen more deeply, to notice what was always there but overlooked. A poet once wrote, "The pause between heartbeats is the place where eternity lives." If you live only in noise, only in action, only in yes, you miss that eternity. But if you allow silence, if you allow absence, you open the door to the infinite. Imagine now that you are sitting beneath a great pine tree. The wind moves through the needles with a soft whisper. A bird calls in the distance. Then all is quiet again. You are surrounded by noble silence. Not empty, but alive. You feel your breath deepen, your shoulders soften, your heart grows steady. In this silence, you are not unseen. You are more present than ever. When you stop being endlessly available, when you allow silence to become part of your presence, you transform into one who speaks like the elder monk, one who is cherished like the rare word, one who is listened to, not because of volume but because of depth. So, as you rest tonight, allow silence to enfold you. You do not need to answer every call. You do not need to speak every word. You do not need to be always present, like the elder monk, like the wise woman. Your silence is a gift. Your pauses are part of your song. Your absence is part of your presence. Breathe one last time. Slowly. Inhale silence. Exhale peace. Feel yourself sinking deeper into stillness, into noble silence, into the rhythm that makes your life music. For many of us, the word no feels heavy upon the tongue. We swallow it. We bury it. We hide it away, believing that to refuse is to harm, that to step back is to betray, that to set boundaries is to risk losing love from childhood. We may have been praised when we agreed quickly, when we smiled politely, when we made ourselves available, and perhaps we were scolded or shamed when we dared to resist, when we dared to protect our own rhythm. Over time, the heart begins to fear this simple word, no, as if it were a blade that cuts connection instead of a bridge that protects it. But the truth is softer. To say no with clarity is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of compassion, both for yourself and for others. A no spoken from wisdom is like a gate that protects a sacred garden. Without the gate, the garden is trampled. With it, the flowers have space to bloom. There was once a young monk in a mountain temple who never refused a request. His brothers admired him for his endless availability. If someone asked for help gathering wood, he said yes. If someone asked him to take their chores, he said yes. If someone asked for food from his own bowl, he said yes. But over time, resentment began to grow in his heart. He smiled on the outside, but within, he felt invisible and unseen. One day, his teacher asked him, "Why do you say yes when your heart means no?" The monk lowered his eyes and whispered, "Because I am afraid they will not love me if I refuse." The teacher placed a hand upon his shoulder and said, "When you betray yourself for the sake of love, you do not give love. You give fear, and fear cannot nourish anyone." These words fell into the young monk's heart like rain upon dry soil. From that day, he began to practice saying no with kindness. At first, the others were surprised, some even angered. But as time passed, they began to see him differently. His yes became sincere again, his presence respected, and he discovered that those who truly cared for him remained, while those who only sought his endless availability drifted away. Perhaps you too have known this fear, the fear that no will lead to abandonment, that stepping back will make you vanish from someone's heart. But ask yourself, if someone values you only when you are endlessly available, is that love, or is it convenience? True love, true respect, does not vanish when you honor yourself. It grows. Pause here. Inhale deeply, as though filling your chest with courage. Exhale gently, as though speaking the word no with compassion. Inhale. Feel the mountain rise within you, steady and unmoving. Exhale. Release the fear of losing love. Notice how your body softens when you give yourself permission to set boundaries. In Buddhism, we learn that compassion must be guided by wisdom. To give without wisdom is to harm both yourself and others. If you give when your heart is empty, you offer not love, but depletion. If you say yes when your heart means no, you plant seeds of resentment instead of kindness. True compassion requires honesty, and honesty sometimes speaks the word no. There is an old tale of a traveler who came to a river crossing. A man begged him to carry him across on his back. Out of pity, the traveler agreed, but once across, the man refused to step down, demanding to be carried further. Weary and sore, the traveler stumbled on, unable to refuse. Eventually, both collapsed. The story reminds us carrying another's burden is kindness only if it does not destroy both lives in the process. Sometimes compassion requires laying someone gently upon the ground and saying, "I cannot carry you further." Breathe again. Inhale strength. Exhale clarity. Imagine yourself standing in a forest, a great tree before you. Its roots are deep, its trunk steady. You lean against it and feel its strength move into you. This is what it means to say no from compassion, not harsh, not cruel, but steady. Like the tree that does not bend to every storm. As you lie here, consider that your life, too, has boundaries. Just as the ocean stops at the shore, just as night follows day, just as the seasons know their time, so too must you learn to honor your limits. Your no does not erase love. It protects it. Your no does not end connection. It makes connection real. When you say no with clarity, you give your yes its meaning again. When you step back with wisdom, your return is cherished more deeply. And when you honor your boundaries, you teach others gently, quietly, to honor them too. So tonight, let yourself rest in the courage of no. You are not selfish for protecting your well. You are not unkind for tending your own flame. You are human, living in rhythm, honoring both your yes and your no. Breathe softly. Inhale the courage of the mountain. Exhale the gentleness of the breeze. Inhale strength. Exhale compassion. And in this rhythm, let go of fear. Let the word no become part of your love, part of your truth, part of your peace. So much of our suffering arises from mistaking convenience for love. There are people who draw near to us not because they cherish our presence, but because we are always available, always ready, always pliant. They come not to see who we are, but to take what is easy to reach. And because we fear being alone, we allow it. We confuse their dependence with affection, their need with respect. Yet the heart quietly knows the difference. There is a story of a man who visited a temple each morning. He never entered to bow before the Buddha, never sat to hear the Dharma, never offered a prayer. He came only to take incense, because it was free at the gate, day after day. He filled his pockets, believing that this was enough. To him, the temple was nothing more than convenience. But when the incense was gone, so too was his interest. He never returned. The monks whispered among themselves. He was never here for truth, only for smoke. So it is with certain relationships. If someone values you only for your endless availability, their love is like smoke. It rises quickly. It fills the air for a moment, but then it vanishes, leaving nothing behind. True love, true respect, is not based on convenience. It sees you, not only your service. It honors your being, not only your giving. Pause now. Inhale slowly and imagine drawing clear air into your lungs. Exhale gently, letting go of the smoke of false affection, the haze of convenience mistaken for care. Inhale truth, exhale illusion. Feel your heart grow lighter. In Buddhism, we are reminded again and again to see clearly, to look beyond appearances, to pierce through illusion. To confuse convenience with love is like mistaking a shadow for a body or a reflection for the moon. It looks real, but when you reach for it, your hand finds nothing. Consider how you feel when you are with someone who truly respects you. They do not demand your constant presence. They do not take your time for granted. They honor your silences. They cherish your boundaries. They are grateful for what you offer. Whether small or great, their love is not measured by what you can provide, but by who you are. This is true connection. There is a parable of a teacher who gave lectures each week. Many students filled the hall, but few truly listened. They nodded. They smiled. They applauded. But their hearts were elsewhere. One evening, a single student came and sat quietly, listening to every word with care. The teacher turned to him and said, "Better one who listens with his heart than 100 who only attend out of habit. So it is with your presence. Better one who loves you for your truth than many who cling only to your convenience." Imagine yourself now as a temple. Within you is sacredness, stillness, beauty. Some may pass by only to snatch the incense at the gate, never stepping inside. Do not mistake them for pilgrims. The true ones are those who enter with reverence, who bow before your being, who listen to your silence as much as your words. Breathe again, slowly. Inhale, feeling the sacredness of your own temple. Exhale, releasing those who only come for convenience. You are not an endless supply of incense to be burned. You are the temple itself, vast, luminous, whole. It may be painful to see this truth, to realize that some who surround you are there only for what is easy, not for what is real. But in seeing clearly, you are freed. You no longer chase approval, no longer confuse convenience with love. You begin to discern who truly sees you, who truly honors your rhythm, who truly cares when you step back into absence. A Zen master once said, "If you wish to know who your true friends are, be silent. Those who remain are the ones who see you, in your silence, in your boundaries, in your no. The truth of your relationships is revealed." So tonight, as you prepare to rest, allow this clarity to settle in your heart. You do not need to be endlessly available to be loved. Those who love you only when you are convenient do not love you at all. Those who love you even in your absence, even in your silence, are the ones who truly matter. Breathe gently now. Inhale, strength to see clearly. Exhale, the haze of illusion. Inhale the sacredness of your own being. Exhale the smoke of convenience mistaken for care. Feel yourself becoming lighter, clearer, freer. You are not smoke. You are flame. You are not incense to be consumed. You are the temple itself. And those who truly love you will bow, not at your gate, but at your presence. When you are always attending to others, always answering their calls, always rushing to ease their burdens, something subtle yet profound begins to slip away. The sound of your own inner voice grows faint. The quiet desires of your heart are drowned beneath the noise of endless requests. Your soul, like a child, calling softly from another room, waits patiently, but too often goes unheard. There was once a monk who served his temple for many years. He carried buckets of water, swept the paths, lit the lamps, and guided visitors with a smile. His brothers praised him as tireless and kind, but at night, when he lay down to rest, he felt only emptiness. His own dreams had long since withered. One day, in a moment of exhaustion, he wandered to the edge of the forest and sat beneath a great tree. For the first time in many years, he listened. He heard the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, the rhythm of his own breath. In that stillness, a long-buried voice rose within him. It did not ask him to abandon service, but to remember himself within it. And in that moment, he rediscovered not only his own joy, but also the deeper meaning of compassion. Perhaps you too have forgotten your own voice in the noise of endless availability. Perhaps your days are filled with movement, but your heart remains unheard. To step back is not selfishness. It is listening. It is remembering who you are beyond duty, beyond service, beyond others' demands. Pause here. Close your eyes softly. Inhale, and imagine gathering back all the scattered pieces of yourself. Exhale, and allow them to settle gently within your chest. Inhale again, as if hearing your own voice rising once more. Exhale, and feel it deepen, steady and true. In Buddhist practice, we speak of mindfulness as remembering, not remembering facts or details, but remembering yourself, your presence, your breath. To live mindfully is to stop forgetting who you are beneath the noise. When you are endlessly available to others, you forget. When you become available to yourself, you remember. There is a story of a potter who worked tirelessly to fulfill orders from the village, day and night. He shaped clay, burned his hands in the kiln, delivered pots to every household. Yet he no longer remembered why he loved the craft. One evening, he stopped. He sat with a lump of clay, not to make anything for others, but simply to feel its coolness in his hands. Slowly, he molded it without purpose, letting the clay guide him. For the first time in years, he felt joy arise, a smile spreading across his face. "Ah," he whispered, "this is why I began." In that pause, he rediscovered himself. You too may need such pauses, moments of silence, of withdrawal, of absence, not to abandon others, but to remember why you give at all. Service without self is not compassion, it is erasure. But service with self, rooted in joy, in remembrance, in authenticity, becomes boundless and true. Breathe again, slowly. Inhale, and listen inward. What does your heart whisper? What dream stirs within you? Exhale, and let the noise of others fall away for a moment. Inhale your own presence. Exhale the weight of duty. Rest here, in yourself. The Buddha once said, "Better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles." To conquer yourself is not to crush or deny who you are, but to return, to remember, to rediscover the voice that has been waiting all along. Imagine now that you are walking through a forest path at dusk. The air is quiet. The sky painted with fading light. You come to a stream, its waters murmuring softly. You sit upon a stone and listen. At first, all you hear is the rush of water. But slowly, beneath the sound, you hear something else. Your own breath, your own heartbeat, the steady rhythm of your own being. In this moment, you rediscover yourself. Not the self who serves, not the self who bends to others, but the self who simply is alive, breathing, a whole. Perhaps you have feared that if you step back, you will be forgotten. But the one you must never forget is yourself. Others may come and go, their needs rising and falling like waves. But your own presence, your own truth, is the shore upon which all waves break. Without the shore, the sea has no shape. Without yourself, your love has no root. As you rest tonight, allow this rediscovery to unfold gently within you. You are more than your usefulness. You are more than your availability. You are a being of breath, of light, of rhythm. You are a well, a garden, a flame. You are presence itself, and you are worthy of hearing your own voice again. So, breathe softly now. Inhale, remembrance. Exhale, forgetting. Inhale, presence. Exhale, noise. Inhale yourself. Exhale the weight of others' demands. And in this rhythm, rediscover the one who has been waiting patiently within you, the one who is whole, radiant, and free. Absence is often feared. We imagine that if we step away, if we withdraw, if we allow ourselves to vanish for a time, others will forget us. And so, we remain endlessly available, endlessly present, as though our love and our worth could only survive in constant exposure. Yet, in truth, absence is not the end of connection. It is often its beginning. There was once a villager who came to the market every day. He greeted everyone, sold his wares, told his stories, and was so constant that people barely noticed him. One day, he fell ill and stayed home. That morning, the market felt strangely empty. People searched for him, asking one another, "Where is he?" The day feels incomplete without his voice. Only then did they realize how much his presence mattered. His absence was the invitation that awakened their gratitude. So too with you. When you are always available, always present, your presence becomes like the air, necessary, but unnoticed. But when you step back, even briefly, you invite others to truly see you. Absence, wisely embraced, is not neglect. It is invitation. Pause here. Inhale slowly, as though filling yourself with presence. Exhale gently, as though stepping back, creating space. Inhale presence. Exhale absence. Feel how both are part of the same breath. In Buddhist teaching, emptiness is not void. It is fullness without obstruction. The flower is empty of separateness, yet full of soil, rain, sun, and air. In the same way, absence is not a lack of love. It is the space in which love breathes. Just as music is not only notes but the silence between, so too is connection made stronger by pauses, by spaces, by absence. Think of a fragrance that lingers in a room long after the flower has been carried away. The presence is felt even in absence, sometimes more deeply than when it was near. Love, too, often blooms in the memory of absence. There was once a teacher who visited his students only once a month. At first, they grumbled, wishing for his constant presence. But over time, they came to cherish each visit, listening with full attention, holding his words like precious jewels. His absence between meetings made his presence radiant. Had I been here every day, he told them, you would have heard me but not listened. My absence is the invitation that makes you ready. Perhaps you too have feared that absence will weaken your bonds, but consider when someone you love is gone even for a short while. Do you forget them, or do you carry them more tenderly, longing for their return? Absence deepens awareness. It teaches gratitude. It invites love to grow roots rather than cling only to surface. Breathe again. Inhale the closeness of presence. Exhale into the vastness of absence. Notice how the two are not enemies, but companions. Without one, the other has no meaning. In relationships, this rhythm creates depth. A partner who clings every moment may exhaust the bond, while one who disappears entirely may starve it. But a partner who moves in rhythm, present and absent, near and far, keeps love alive, fresh as the moon waxing and waning in the night sky. Imagine now that you are standing in a field beneath the stars. Around you, there is vast emptiness, but within it, the stars shine more brightly. Without the dark sky, the stars would be invisible. Without absence, presence cannot be seen. You, too, shine more brightly when you allow yourself the gift of space. Absence is not rejection, it is invitation. It invites others to awaken to your value. It invites you to awaken to yourself. It creates the space where relationships can breathe, where respect can grow, where love can deepen. The Buddha once said, if you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will have complete peace. Absence is a form of letting go, a gentle release of constant grasping, and in that letting go, peace enters. So, as you lie here tonight, allow yourself to soften into absence. You do not need to be everywhere, every moment. For everyone, you are allowed to step back, to withdraw, to rest. And in that absence, your presence becomes not smaller, but greater. Breathe softly now. Inhale, presence. Feel your heart glowing like a flame. Exhale, absence. Feel the glow spreading quietly through the room, lingering even when unseen. Inhale, you are here. Exhale, you are felt, even when you are not. Let absence become your invitation to others, to see you clearly, and to yourself, to return home to your own heart. One of the greatest fears that keeps us endlessly available is the fear of loss. We fear that if we say no, someone will walk away. If we step back, we will be forgotten. If we value ourselves, others will no longer value us. This fear clings to the heart like a shadow, pushing us to stay, to bend, to give, even when we are empty. And yet, this fear blinds us to a simple truth. Sometimes what we lose was never truly ours. And sometimes letting go is the only way to discover who will remain. There was once a monk who taught daily in his temple. The novices adored him because he was always present, always speaking, always ready to answer every question. But one year, he decided to change. Instead of teaching every day, he chose to speak only once a week, allowing silence and practice to fill the days between. At first, many students were angry. "He no longer loves us," they said. "He has grown distant." Some left, never to return. Yet those who stayed discovered something remarkable. The weekly teaching carried more depth, more weight, more clarity than the daily ones ever had. They listened more carefully, cherished each word, and grew more deeply in wisdom. The monk lost many, but those who remained became true disciples. His loss revealed the truth of who was ready to walk the path with him. So, too, with your life. When you step back, when you say no, when you stop being endlessly available, some may leave, but those who remain are the ones who love you for who you are, not for what you provide. This is the courage to lose, to risk letting go of the many in order to discover the few who are true. Pause here. Inhale deeply, filling your heart with strength. Exhale slowly, releasing fear. Inhale, courage. Exhale, clinging. Notice the steadiness that grows in your body when you let go of the need to hold on. In Buddhist teaching, everything is impermanent. People come and go. Relationships rise and fall. Attachments form and dissolve. To cling desperately is to suffer, for nothing can be held forever. But to accept impermanence is to find peace. To realize that loss is not always an ending, but a revealing. What is false falls away. What is true remains. There is a parable of a sculptor who carved statues from marble. Each time he began, he struck away great chunks of stone. To an untrained eye, it looked like destruction, as though he were ruining the block. But with each piece removed, something more beautiful emerged. The statue was always inside. He said, "I only removed what was not real." In the same way, when people fall away because you are no longer endlessly available, it might feel like loss. But what is revealed is truth. The ones who remain are those who love the real you, not just your constant presence. Breathe again. Inhale as if gathering strength to release. Exhale as if letting the unnecessary fall away. Inhale truth. Exhale illusion. Feel yourself lighter, freer, more real. Perhaps you have feared that by stepping back, you will end up alone. But solitude is not abandonment. Solitude is the place where you rediscover yourself. And from that wholeness, you attract not convenience, but connection. The ones who remain, or the ones who arrive anew, will meet you not as a shadow of yourself, but as your whole being. There was once a woman who carried water for everyone in her village. She was admired, but never truly seen. When she finally stopped, some cursed her, some left her side, but those who stayed began to carry water with her. Not from expectation, but from love. She had lost the crowd, but found companions. The courage to lose is the courage to trust. To trust that what is meant for you will not be driven away by your no. To trust that absence does not erase you. To trust that love, which is true, grows stronger when tested. So as you lie here tonight, let this courage enter you. You do not need to cling to every connection. You do not need to hold every hand, carry every burden, answer every call. You may step back. You might lose. And still, you will remain whole. And in that wholeness, the ones who truly love you will remain too. Breathe softly now. Inhale courage. Feel it rise like a mountain in your chest. Exhale fear. Let it dissolve into the air. Inhale trust. Steady and calm. Exhale the need to hold on. In this rhythm, discover your freedom. Remember, it is better to lose those who drain you than to lose yourself. Better to risk absence than to live unseen. Better to be loved for your truth than tolerated for your availability. This is the courage to lose, and in that loss, to gain what is real. When you scatter yourself into fragments, a piece for this person, a piece for that request, a piece for every demand that knocks at your door, soon you feel thin, invisible, unnoticed even by yourself. The scattered self is like dust, carried by the wind everywhere, yet belonging nowhere. It drifts. It begs to be seen. It longs to be gathered again. But the whole self, the self that knows its rhythm, honors its boundaries, and stands complete, does not need to beg. It is noticed naturally. Wholeness has a gravity all its own. There was once a potter who broke one of his vases. The crack ran deep, and the vessel could no longer hold water. But instead of discarding it, he filled the fracture with golden lacquer. When it was placed upon the shelf, people admired it more than the unbroken pots. It shines, they said, not because it has no cracks, but because it has embraced them. This art became known as kintsugi, the practice of honoring brokenness by making it part of the whole. You too may carry cracks, wounds from being endlessly available, from giving until you had nothing left. Yet these cracks are not shame. When you gather yourself, when you fill those wounds with the gold of self-respect and rhythm, you do not diminish. You shine. You become whole again. And in your wholeness, others are drawn to you, not for your usefulness, but for your presence. Pause here. Breathe deeply. Inhale as if gathering your scattered pieces back into your heart. Exhale as if sealing them together with golden light. Inhale wholeness. Exhale fragments. Feel your being grow steady, luminous, complete. In Buddhist teaching, we speak often of the jewel hidden in the lotus. The lotus blooms from the mud, yet within it lies a radiance untouched by dirt. This is the same jewel within you. Even if your life has been scattered, even if your heart has cracked, even if exhaustion has drained you, the jewel of your true self remains whole. To return to it is not to become perfect, but to become complete. There is a parable of a musician who spent years playing in taverns, bending his music to the demands of every crowd. He sang louder when they shouted, faster when they drank, softer when they wept. In time, he no longer knew his own song. One day, weary of bending, he retreated to the forest and sat by a river. Slowly, a melody rose from within him, not shaped by others, but by his own heart. When he returned to play again, people were moved in a way they had never been before. "What has changed?" they asked. He smiled and said, "I no longer play fragments. I play whole." When you stop scattering yourself to meet every demand, you rediscover your own song. And when you live from that wholeness, you do not need to chase respect or love. It comes naturally, drawn to the gravity of your truth. Breathe again. Inhale the steadiness of a mountain, whole and unmoved. Exhale the scattering winds that once carried you thin across the world. Inhale wholeness. Exhale fragments. Notice the peace that arrives when you no longer chase, when you simply stand complete. In relationships, wholeness is the root of true connection. When you are fragmented, others may consume you but never truly see you. When you are whole, others cannot help but notice. Wholeness is like a flame that draws people not because it begs, but because it glows. The Buddha once said, "You yourself must strive. The Buddhas only point the way." To strive in this sense is to gather yourself, to become whole. No one else can do it for you. No one else can grant you the dignity of your presence. It must arise from within, from the courage to stop scattering, from the wisdom to honor your rhythm. Imagine now that you are a vessel, cracked but beautiful. Golden light pours into every fracture, sealing them, not by hiding, but by shining through them. You are no longer broken. You are whole, radiant in your imperfections. And in this wholeness, you feel a gravity, a calm strength that draws the world toward you. Not with force, but with quiet presence. As you prepare for deeper rest tonight, let go of the need to beg for attention, to scatter yourself for approval. Allow yourself to return whole. In your wholeness lies your magnetism, your gravity, your beauty. You are not loved because you are endlessly available. You are loved because you are whole. Breathe softly now. Inhale wholeness. Feel it gather like golden light within you. Exhale fragments. Feel them dissolve into peace. Inhale the jewel of your being. Exhale the dust of your scattering. And in this rhythm, rest as yourself complete, luminous, whole. Imagine again the well of water deep beneath the ground. When buckets are lowered endlessly, when there is no pause between one visitor and the next, the well begins to grow shallow. The water grows muddy. The spring beneath it struggles to rise. But if the well is left alone for a time, if the earth is given a chance to breathe, the water returns clear and abundant. The pause is not emptiness. The pause is what keeps the well alive. Your own spirit is like that well. If you offer yourself without pause to every voice that calls, to every hand that reaches, to every demand that presses against you, your water will run low. You may still give, but what you offer will no longer be pure. You may still serve, but your presence will feel thin, strained, weary. Yet when you allow yourself to rest, when you step back into silence, your well begins to fill again. And when you return, what you give is clear, nourishing, alive. There was once a healer in a small village. She was loved because she answered every call, whether morning or midnight. She left her bed to tend the sick, comfort the grieving, or deliver children into the world. For years, she carried this burden until her body weakened and her spirit dimmed. One day, An elder from the next village came to her and said, "If you collapse, who will heal? If your flame dies, who will carry the light?" He urged her to rest, to let others share the burden. At first, she felt guilty, but when she began to sleep, to breathe, to sit quietly by the river, something returned to her. Her smile grew brighter, her hand steadier, her presence warmer. She was no less a healer for resting. She was more. Perhaps you too have felt guilty for resting, as though the world will crumble if you are not endlessly available. But the truth is gentler. The world does not ask you to collapse for it. The world asks you to be whole, so that what you give carries life. Pause here. Inhale, as though drawing cool water from the spring within you. Exhale, as though pouring that water gently, without emptying the well. Inhale a rest. Exhale renewal. Feel your own spirit refilling, your breath soft and alive. In Buddhist teaching, the rhythm of life is sacred. Nothing in nature gives without pause. The tide rises and falls. The tree grows leaves and sheds them. The sun shines and sets. Even the breath itself teaches us. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale again. Why should you be different? To rest is not weakness. To rest is to align with the rhythm of the universe. There is a story of a monk who worked tirelessly in the monastery gardens, day after day. He tilled the soil, carried water, harvested crops. One evening, exhausted, he complained to his teacher, "Why must I rest? I feel I am wasting time." The teacher lifted a watering can and poured it upon a small sapling until the soil was soaked. Then he poured more, until the water flooded and washed the roots away. "Do you see?" the teacher asked. "Even water, which gives life, can destroy. If there is no pause, your effort, too, must know rhythm. Work, yes, but also rest. Breathe deeply now. Inhale the stillness of the night. Exhale the weight of guilt. Inhale the truth of rhythm. Exhale the need to always give." As you lie here, imagine yourself as a well of water. With each breath, the spring below replenishes, rising clear and strong. You are not asked to empty yourself tonight. You are asked only to rest, to let the water gather, to trust that tomorrow, when the bucket is lowered, you will be full again. Your worth is not in constant giving. Your worth is in your being, in your presence, in the quiet strength of a well that knows how to rest. So, let your body soften now. Let your mind grow quiet. Let your breath move gently, a tide that flows and returns. Inhale fullness. Exhale peace. Inhale life. Exhale rest. And in this rhythm, trust that your well will remain clear, abundant, alive. Respect is not born from constant presence. It is born from rhythm, from the balance of approach and retreat, from the wisdom of knowing when to give and when to pause. When you are always available, people may grow accustomed to you, expecting your presence as if it were the air around them. They breathe it without thought, without gratitude. But when you step back, when you allow space, respect begins to grow like a seed awakening in fertile soil. There was once a sage who lived at the edge of a river. Villagers came to him daily for advice, and for many years he answered each question, no matter how trivial. In time, The villagers stopped bowing when they approached. They no longer thanked him. They asked without reverence, as if his wisdom were endless and cheap. One morning, the sage crossed the river and disappeared into the forest. Days passed, then weeks, and the villagers began to worry. They missed his words, his presence, his calm eyes. When he returned, they fell to their knees, tears in their eyes. "We did not see your value until you were gone," they confessed. The sage only smiled and said, "The silence was my teaching. Respect grows in absence. So it is with you. When you scatter yourself without measure, people may overlook your worth. But when you honor your rhythm, when you step back and return whole, respect deepens naturally." Pause here. Inhale slowly, feeling respect rise within your own chest. Exhale gently, letting go of the need to be constantly acknowledged. Inhale dignity. Exhale grasping. Notice how respect feels when it begins within yourself, not from others. Buddhism teaches that everything begins within. If you do not respect your own presence, others will not respect it either. If you give yourself away as though you are nothing, the world will treat you as such. But when you value your own being, when you care for yourself as though you are sacred ground, others will sense it. They will tread more gently, speak with more care, bow with more sincerity. There is a parable of a temple bell. Each morning, the monk struck it only once, and the sound rang across the valley. The villagers stopped, bowed, and listened with reverence. But one year, a new monk thought the bell would bring more devotion if it rang all day. He struck it again and again, until the sound became background noise. Soon, no one stopped to listen. The bell lost its power, not because its sound was weak, but because it was constant. Respect faded in the absence of rhythm. So too with your presence. Respect is born not of endless availability, but of thoughtful presence, like a bell that rings only when it is needed most. Breathe again. Inhale as if becoming the bell, your sound pure and strong. Exhale into silence, allowing the echo to linger. Inhale presence, exhale absence. In this rhythm, respect is born. Perhaps you have known the pain of being taken for granted, of giving endlessly without being seen. This pain is not a sign of your lack of worth. It is a sign that your rhythm has been forgotten. When you return to it, when you step back, when you rest, when you give from fullness, you teach others to see you again. You remind them that your presence is not background noise, but music. Imagine now that you are walking through a quiet hall. At its center stands a great bell. You strike it gently, once, and the sound fills the air. The vibration lingers, soft and long, touching every corner. You do not strike it again. You let the silence carry the sound, and in that silence, respect grows. So too may your life be not endless noise, but sound and silence woven together, presence and absence, creating reverence. The Buddha once said, "If you respect yourself, others will respect you." This respect is not arrogance. It is humility grounded in truth. It is knowing that your presence has weight, that your time has value, that your spirit is sacred. When you live with that awareness, others respond in kind. So as you lie here tonight, allow respect to root itself gently in your heart. Not respect demanded, not respect chased, but respect born from the rhythm of your being. You do not need to prove your worth through endless availability. You only need to honor yourself. And in that honoring, respect will follow. Breathe softly now. Inhale dignity, steady and quiet. Exhale fear, gentle and light. Inhale the presence of the bell. Exhale into the silence that makes it holy. And in this rhythm, let respect grow within you and around you. Like a seed watered by your breath. Stand upon the shore and listen. The ocean does not rush endlessly forward. The waves rise, reach the sand, then retreat. Again they come, again they go. Always in rhythm, always in balance. It is this ebb and flow that sustains life, that shapes the shore, that keeps the sea alive. If the tide only rose and never fell, the world would drown. If it only fell and never rose, the sea would vanish. The wisdom of the ocean is its rhythm. Your life, too, must follow this rhythm, to always give, to always move, to always be present without retreat, is to become like a sea that only rises, overwhelming and destructive. To always withdraw and never return is to become like a sea that only falls, barren and dry. But when you move with rhythm, advancing and retreating, giving and resting, speaking and falling silent, your life flows like the ocean, powerful yet peaceful. There was once a fisherman who wanted the tide to serve him. He prayed that the sea would always rise, bringing fish to the shore. For a time, he was delighted, but soon his village was flooded, his home swept away. Another fisherman prayed the opposite, wishing the tide would always fall so that he could walk safely upon the sand. For a time, he was pleased, but soon the fish disappeared, the boats stranded, the sea receding into nothingness. Only when they accepted the rhythm of the tide did the fisherman learn to live in harmony with the ocean. So it is with you. When you honor the rhythm of your availability, your presence becomes like the tide, nourishing, natural, alive. Pause. Now, inhale, slowly, as though the tide is rising within your chest. Exhale gently, as though the tide is retreating. Inhale, the wave draws near. Exhale, the wave returns. Notice how your breath itself is an ocean, always moving, always balanced. In Buddhist teaching, balance is not found in extremes, but in the middle way. The ocean does not cling to rising or falling. It moves between both. The breath does not cling to inhaling or exhaling. It moves in rhythm. Your life, too, is meant to be lived in balance, not endless presence, not endless absence, but the harmony of both. There is a parable of a monk who tended a small boat. Each morning, he pushed it onto the river, rowing against the current with all his strength. By evening, exhausted, he returned, only to repeat it the next day. His teacher watched in silence until one day he said, "Why do you fight the current?" The monk replied, "Because I fear if I stop, I will drift away." The teacher smiled and said, "If you trust the river, it will carry you home." From then on, the monk learned to row in rhythm, sometimes with effort, sometimes in rest, always guided by the flow. You too may feel that if you stop, if you rest, if you step back, you will be forgotten or lost. But just as the river carries the boat, just as the tide returns to the shore, your presence is not erased by rhythm. It is sustained by it. Breathe again. Inhale, as though the wave gathers strength. Exhale, as though it returns to the vastness. Inhale, presence. Exhale, absence. Both are part of the same ocean. Imagine now that you are standing on a quiet beach at dusk. The sky glows with fading light. The horizon wide and endless. The waves rise, kiss the shore, and retreat, leaving foam that glimmers in the twilight. You watch them come and go, never clinging, never forcing, simply flowing in rhythm. You feel your own breath align with theirs, your chest rising and falling like the sea itself. In this rhythm, peace washes over you. The Buddha once said, just as the great ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so too does the Dharma have one taste, the taste of liberation. To live in rhythm is to taste liberation, the freedom of not clinging, the freedom of not fearing absence, the freedom of flowing with life instead of against it. So, as you rest tonight, let the ocean guide you. Your presence does not need to be constant to be real. Your absence does not mean emptiness. Like the tide, you are meant to move in balance, to come and go, to rise and retreat, to give and to rest. Breathe softly now. Inhale the rising tide, full of life. Exhale the retreating tide, full of peace. Inhale the ocean's strength. Exhale its calm. And in this rhythm, feel yourself become the sea vast, endless, and free. Think of a lamp. Its flame glows softly, steady, and warm, lighting a room with quiet ease. It does not blaze so fiercely that it burns out in moments, nor does it flicker so weakly that it cannot be seen. The lamp endures because its flame knows balance, because it is fed with care, because it is not forced beyond its limit. Your life is like that lamp when you make yourself endlessly available, giving without pause. Your flame grows frantic, leaping too high, devouring the oil too quickly. Soon, the light falters, the flame sputters, the room darkens. But when you tend the lamp wisely, when you rest, when you pause, when you say no with compassion, your flame burns steady. It endures. It warms not only today, but for many nights to come. There was once a traveler who carried a lantern through the mountains. In his eagerness to reach the next village, he turned the wick too high, hoping the light would carry him farther. For a short time, the lantern blazed, illuminating every rock and tree, but the oil drained quickly, and soon he was left in darkness, stumbling on the path. Another traveler, walking more slowly, kept her flame small and steady. Though the light was gentler, it lasted the whole journey, guiding her safely home. The lesson is simple: the flame that lasts is the flame that is cared for, not the flame forced to burn beyond its rhythm. Pause here. Inhale gently, as though drawing air to feed your flame. Exhale softly, as though allowing the light to glow steady. Inhale balance. Exhale steadiness. Feel the flame of your presence burning calmly within you. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness is often compared to a lamp in the darkness. It does not flare dramatically. It simply shines, steady and clear, allowing us to see the path before us. To live mindfully is to tend your flame not too high, not too low, but in balance. Perhaps you have felt what it is like to burn too quickly, to say yes too often, to give without pause. At first, you shine brightly. Others are warmed by your presence. But soon, exhaustion comes. Your oil runs low. Your flame weakens. Your joy fades. This is not failure. It is simply a reminder the lamp must be tended, or the light cannot endure. There is a story of a monk who lit the temple lamps each evening. One night, a visitor asked him, "Why do you trim the wick so carefully? Why not let it burn as high as it will?" The monk replied, "Because the flame that is too high consumes itself. The flame that is steady can shine all night." The visitor bowed, realizing that the monk was not only speaking of lamps, but of life. So it is with you. You are not asked to blaze without pause. You are asked to shine steadily, to tend your flame with care, to allow yourself rest so that your light may endure. Breathe again. Inhale as though filling your heart with oil, clear and abundant. Exhale as though letting the flame glow softly, steady and warm. Inhale nourishment. Exhale radiance. This is the rhythm of your lamp. Imagine now that you are sitting in a quiet room at night. A single lamp burns beside you. Its glow is gentle, not harsh, casting warm light upon the walls. You watch the flames sway slightly with the breath of the room. Yet it never falters. It endures because it is cared for, because it is allowed to burn in balance. You realize that you, too, are this lamp. Your flame does not need to blaze endlessly to matter. It needs only to be steady, tended, and true. The Buddha once said, "Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life." Your flame is not only your energy, but your spirit. To tend, it is not selfishness. It is honoring the life within you. So, as you prepare for deeper rest tonight, remember the lamp. Remember that your worth is not measured by how brightly you blaze for others in every moment. Your worth is in the steadiness of your flame, the balance that allows you to shine, not only for today but for the many nights to come. Breathe softly now. Inhale the oil that nourishes your flame. Exhale the light that warms the world. Inhale care. Exhale radiance. And, in this rhythm, let your lamp burn steady, guiding you gently into peace. Look to the trees, and you will see that nothing in nature gives endlessly. In spring, blossoms open, filling the air with fragrance. In summer, leaves spread wide, offering shade. In autumn, the trees let go, releasing their leaves to the wind. And in winter, they stand bare, conserving their strength in stillness. Each season has its beauty. Each has its purpose. The tree does not cling to the blossoms when they fade, nor does it despair when its branches grow empty. It trusts the rhythm. It knows that life returns in cycles. Your own heart is like the seasons. There are times when you bloom brightly, offering joy and presence to the world. There are times when you stretch wide, giving shelter to others. And there are times when you must let go, shedding burdens, releasing demands, allowing yourself to stand bare and rest. None of these seasons is failure. All are necessary. All are sacred. There was once a gardener who wept each autumn as the leaves fell. "My trees are dying," he said. But an elder told him, "Do not mistake rest for death. Without this season of stillness, spring cannot come. The falling leaves are not the end. They are the beginning." The gardener learned to love each season, not clinging to one, not fearing another. Perhaps you too have clung to endless spring, believing that you must always bloom, always be present, always available. But just as the tree would wither if it tried to bloom forever, so too will you wither if you never allow yourself to rest. To honor your seasons is to honor your humanity. Pause here. Inhale deeply, as though drawing in the fragrance of spring blossoms. Exhale gently, as though releasing autumn leaves to the wind. Inhale renewal. Exhale release. Notice how each breath carries both arrival and departure, both blooming and letting go. In Buddhist teaching, impermanence is not sorrow, but freedom. Nothing lasts forever, not blossoms, not burdens, not exhaustion, not even pain. All things change, and in this change lies hope. When you are weary, remember that your heart too has seasons. Rest is not the end. It is the soil in which joy will bloom again. There is a parable of a monk who tried to meditate beneath a tree each day. When the blossoms fell upon his robe, he grew annoyed, brushing them away. When the leaves turned brown and fell, he sighed with sadness. One day, his teacher asked him, "Why do you resist what is natural?" The monk replied, "Because I wish the tree to remain always the same." The teacher smiled and said, "Then you do not wish for a tree. You wish for an illusion. To love the tree is to love its changes." From that day forward, the monk welcomed each season, learning to see beauty in every phase. So too with yourself. To love yourself is to love your seasons, your blossoms, your fullness, your shedding, your stillness. Each is part of your wholeness. Each makes you who you are. Breathe again. Inhale the freshness of spring. Exhale the release of autumn. Inhale the warmth of summer. Exhale the stillness of winter. Within your breath, all seasons live together. Imagine now that you are walking through a forest across a single year. In spring, the air is alive with fragrance, birds singing among blossoms. In summer, green leaves stretch overhead, shade cooling your steps. In autumn, the forest glows with gold and crimson, leaves drifting like whispers around you. In winter, snow hushes the earth, the trees bare and still, resting beneath the quiet sky. Each season touches you, and you realize that all belong. So too do the seasons of your own heart belong. The Buddha once said, "In the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you." Letting go is not loss. It is autumn's gift. Resting is not failure. It is winter's wisdom. And returning is not a miracle. It is spring's promise. So as you lie here tonight, let your heart move like the seasons. You need not bloom forever. You need not give endlessly. You may rest. You may release. You may stand bare beneath the winter sky, trusting that spring will come again. Breathe softly now. Inhale blossoms. Exhale leaves. Inhale warmth. Exhale stillness. And in this rhythm, let your seasons flow, carrying you gently into the cycle of rest, renewal, and peace. There is a quiet gift that waits for you when you stop being endlessly available. It is the gift of solitude. At first, solitude may feel like emptiness, a space where no voices call, no requests arrive, no demands press upon your shoulders. But slowly, as silence gathers, solitude reveals its hidden beauty. It is not loneliness, but nourishment. It is not absence, but presence, the presence of yourself, the presence of the world as it truly is. There was once a woman who feared being alone. She filled her days with endless chatter, constant visite, and tireless giving. She was always surrounded. Yet, inside, she felt hollow. One evening, exhausted, she wandered into a forest and sat by a stream. For the first time in years, she was alone. At first, her mind screamed with fear, but as minute passed, she began to hear the water's song, the rustle of leaves, the soft beating of her own heart. She realized that solitude was not emptiness, but fullness. A fullness she had been too busy to notice. Perhaps you too have feared solitude, mistaking it for abandonment. But solitude is not rejection. It is return. It is the path back to yourself, the place where you rediscover your own voice. Pause here. Inhale deeply, as though breathing in the stillness of a forest. Exhale softly, as though releasing the fear of being alone. Inhale presence. Exhale peace. Notice how, even in solitude, you are not empty. You are held by the rhythm of life itself. In Buddhist practice, solitude is cherished. The Buddha himself often withdrew into the forest, not to abandon others, but to return to clarity in silence and solitude. He touched the deepest truths of the heart. He taught that only when we are at peace in solitude can we truly offer love in community. For love born of fear of loneliness is clinging, but love born of peace in solitude is freedom. There is a parable of a monk who feared meditation each time he sat alone, his mind filled with restless thoughts, memories, and fears. He believed solitude was his enemy, but his teacher said, "Stay, do not run. Solitude is not against you. It is your mirror." Slowly, the monk learned to sit. He learned to watch his thoughts rise and fall, his fears appear and dissolve. In time, solitude became his friend, the place where his mind grew calm and his heart clear. So too may solitude become your friend, not a prison, but a sanctuary, not a punishment, but a gift. Breathe again. Inhale the comfort of being with yourself. Exhale the need to fill silence with noise. Inhale your own presence. Exhale your fear of absence. Imagine now that you are sitting beside a still lake at dawn. The water is smooth as glass, reflecting the sky's first light. No one is near. There is only you, the lake, the air, the sound of your breath. At first, you feel small in the vastness, but slowly, you realize that you are not alone. The sky holds you. The water reflects you. The earth beneath you sustains you. In solitude, you are deeply connected. The Buddha once said, "If you cannot find a companion on the path, walk alone. Better to walk alone than with a fool." Solitude is not abandonment. It is strength. It is the reminder that your worth does not depend on constant company, constant giving, constant noise. It is the truth that you are whole, even when no one else is near. As you lie here tonight, let solitude become your blanket. Let silence become your companion. Let your own presence become enough. You are not empty when you are alone. You are full. You are not lost when you step back. You are found. Breathe softly now. Inhale the peace of solitude. Exhale the fear of being forgotten. Inhale the fullness of your own being. Exhale into rest. And in this rhythm, allow solitude to cradle you, carrying you deeper into peace. There is a paradox that often surprises the heart when you stop being endlessly available. When you loosen your grip on the need to always say yes, life does not become smaller. It becomes larger. What you feared to lose begins to return in forms you never expected. Where once you chased respect, it begins to find you. Where once you clung to connection, true connection grows naturally. Letting go, far from emptiness, reveals abundance. There was once a farmer who hoarded every seed he gathered. He feared that if he scattered them into the earth, he would have nothing left. So he kept them in jars, hidden in his house. The jars grew full, but the seeds grew stale, lifeless. One day, his neighbor scattered a handful into the soil. In time, green shoots appeared, then stalks heavy with grain. The neighbor's field flourished, while the hoarder's jars turned to dust. The farmer realized that in holding tightly, he had lost everything. In letting go, his neighbor had gained abundance. So it is with your presence. When you hoard it, when you cling to the need to be always seen, always remembered, always giving, your spirit grows stale. But when you allow yourself to let go, to rest, to withdraw, to honor your rhythm, life returns to you, fuller and richer than before. Pause here. Inhale slowly, as though gathering seeds in your hands. Exhale gently, as though scattering them into the earth. Inhale trust. Exhale release. Feel the abundance that comes not from grasping, but from letting go. In Buddhism, this truth is called non-attachment. To cling is to suffer, because all things change, all things pass. But to let go is to discover freedom. When you release your need to be endlessly available, you open space for life to flow toward you. Opportunities arise. Respect deepens. Relationships mature. What once slipped through your grasp returns naturally, like rain to the open field. There is a parable of a monk who carried water in a cracked pot. Each day, he filled it at the river, but by the time he reached the temple, half the water was gone. At first, he cursed the crack, but over time, he noticed flowers blooming along the path where the water had spilled. The crack had created abundance he had never imagined. In letting go of perfection, he found beauty. So too with your absence. You may fear that stepping back will leave cracks, that your silence will create emptiness. But those spaces may be where flowers bloom, where love deepens, where respect grows, where life surprises you with gifts unseen. Breathe again. Inhale a fullness, the sense of all you carry. Exhale, release, scattering it gently into the world. Inhale life's abundance. Exhale your clinging. Imagine now that you are standing in a meadow. In your hands, a basket of seeds. You reach into the basket and scatter them into the wind. At first, your hands feel lighter, almost empty, but as days pass, you see green shoots rising, blossoms opening, butterflies gathering. Your letting go has created a beauty greater than your hoarding ever could. So it is with your life. By releasing constant availability, by trusting your rhythm, you invite abundance to bloom. The Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to." When you cling to endless presence, to constant approval, to the fear of being forgotten, you lose peace. You lose yourself. But when you let go, when you trust the rhythm, what is real remains, and what is meant for you blossoms. So as you rest tonight, allow yourself to soften into abundance. You do not need to chase love. You do not need to grasp at respect. You do not need to scatter yourself endlessly. By stepping back, by letting go, you align with the rhythm of life. And in that rhythm, abundance flows toward you, quietly, naturally, like rain to the thirsty earth. Breathe softly now. Inhale, trust, as though drawing rain into your chest. Exhale, release, as though letting the soil drink. Inhale, abundance. Exhale, peace. And in this rhythm, allow yourself to rest, knowing that letting go is not loss, but the doorway to fullness. Life is not built from endless yes, nor is it shaped by endless no. It is created in the rhythm between the two, like the beating of the heart, like the rise and fall of the tide, like day turning into night. To live in wisdom is not to always agree, nor to always refuse, but to discern when to step forward and when to step back. In this rhythm, balance appears. There was once a monk who tried to be kind by saying yes to everything. If someone asked for food, he gave it. If someone asked for time, he offered it. If someone asked for effort, he bent until his body ached. But his kindness grew heavy. His smile faded. His steps slowed. One day, his teacher said, "Your yes is no longer a gift. It is a burden, because it is not true." The monk realized that without no, his yes had lost its meaning. So he began to practice discernment. When he said yes, it was with a full heart, not with resentment. When he said no, it was with clarity, not cruelty. And in this rhythm, his compassion became lighter, freer, more genuine. Perhaps you too have known the weight of endless yes, or the fear of saying no. But remember, your yes has meaning only when it is balanced by no. Without boundaries, kindness becomes duty. Without rhythm, love becomes exhaustion. Pause here. Inhale deeply, as though saying yes to yourself. Exhale gently, as though saying no to what does not serve. Inhale truth. Exhale burden. Feel how both yes and no belong in the breath of your life. In Buddhist teaching, the middle way is the path of balance. It is not extreme indulgence, nor extremity. It is not endless, yes, nor endless, no. It is the wisdom to discern what is skillful, what brings peace, what nourishes love. Each yes and each no becomes a step upon the path. There is a parable of a villager who allowed every guest into his house. At first, he felt generous, but soon his home was crowded, noisy, broken by careless visitors. He grew weary and bitter. Another villager, in contrast, closed his doors to everyone. His home was quiet, but lonely and cold. A third villager chose differently. He opened his door with discernment, welcoming those who came in sincerity, gently refusing those who came only to take. His home was both lively and peaceful, both warm and protected. In the rhythm of yes and no, he found harmony. So too, with your life, if you always open, you will be overwhelmed. If you always close, you will be isolated. But if you discern, if you balance yes with no, your life becomes like the third villager's home, alive, warm, and peaceful. Breathe again. Inhale as though saying yes to what brings you joy. Exhale as though saying no to what drains your spirit. Inhale, balance. Exhale, freedom. Imagine now that you are standing before two paths. One is marked by endless yes, its road worn thin, your body bending beneath its weight. The other is marked by endless no, its road silent, lonely, without warmth. Between them lies a third path, winding gently, lit by lanterns, shaded by trees. On this path, you walk in rhythm, sometimes stepping forward, sometimes stepping back. Each step chosen with care. You feel your body light, your heart steady, your spirit free. This is the path of balance, the path of discernment, the path of wisdom. The Buddha once said, if you propose to speak, always ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? The same can be asked of your yes and your no. Each is a form of speech. Each carries power. When you answer with truth, with necessity, with kindness, your yes becomes light, your no becomes gentle, and your life becomes whole. As you rest tonight, let this rhythm guide you. You need not give endlessly, nor refuse everything. You may discern, you may choose, you may say yes when your heart is full, and no when your heart needs rest. In this rhythm, your presence becomes steady, your love becomes free, your being becomes peaceful. Breathe softly now. Inhale, yes. Exhale, no. Inhale truth. Exhale, freedom. And in this rhythm, fall gently into rest, carried by the wisdom of balance. When you stop being endlessly available, a surprising truth reveals itself. Your presence does not vanish. It becomes deeper, more lasting, like a fragrance that lingers long after the flower is gone. Presence is not measured only by hours or by constant nearness. True presence is felt in the heart, even in absence. There was once a teacher who traveled often, leaving his students for months at a time. At first, they feared that without him, their practice would wither. Yet in his absence, They discovered that his teachings echoed within them. His words rose in their minds as they meditated. His smile appeared in their memory when they felt weary. His lessons guided them even when he was far away. When he returned, they told him, "You were with us even when you were gone." He smiled and replied, "Then you have truly learned presence." So it is with your own life. When you withdraw, when you rest, when you step back, those who truly love you do not forget you. They carry you within them. Your presence, like a seed, continues to grow in their hearts, even in your absence. Pause here. Inhale gently, as though filling the air with your presence. Exhale softly, as though letting it settle quietly into the world around you. Inhale, presence. Exhale, remembrance. Notice how your being lingers, even in silence. In Buddhism, interbeing teaches us that we are never separate. The flower may wilt, but its fragrance remains in the air. The cloud may vanish, but its rain flows in the river. The teacher may leave, but their wisdom remains in the student. Your presence, too, continues beyond your immediate availability. You are not forgotten in absence. You are remembered more deeply. There is a parable of a musician who played only rarely in the town square. Each time, the crowd gathered in silence, their hearts waiting for the first note. His song was not long, but it lingered for days in their memory, carried in their humming, their footsteps, their dreams. Another musician played constantly, filling the air with endless sound. His music was heard, but seldom remembered. Presence is not measured by quantity. It is measured by depth. So too with you. Endless availability may surround others with your presence, but it fades into background noise. Selective presence, rooted in truth and balance, remains like music echoing in the soul. Breathe again. Inhale the depth of your being. Exhale its quiet echo into the world. Inhale strength. Exhale remembrance. Imagine now that you are a candle in a dark room. You do not need to burn wildly to be noticed. Your steady flame fills the space with warmth and light. And when you are extinguished for the night, the warmth lingers. The memory of the light stays within those who sat nearby. Your presence is not lost. It endures. Perhaps you have feared that if you are not always present, you will fade from people's hearts. But the truth is gentler. What is real does not vanish when you step back. It grows stronger. Love that is true does not forget. Respect that is real does not waver. Connection that is deep does not dissolve. The Buddha once said, "As the scent of the lotus cannot be carried by the wind, so too the presence of the awakened is felt without movement." Presence is not noise. It is not constant appearance. It is the quiet essence that remains even when you are not there. As you lie here tonight, let go of the fear of being forgotten. Trust that your presence endures. Not in endless availability, but in the depth of the connections you have planted. You do not need to scatter yourself constantly to be remembered. You only need to be true, to be whole, to be real. And that truth will linger in the hearts of others like fragrance in the air, like music in the mind, like the glow of a candle after the flame is gone. Breathe softly now. Inhale. Presence. Steady and whole. Exhale remembrance. Quiet and lasting. Inhale truth, exhale fear. And in this rhythm, rest in the peace of knowing that your presence remains. Even in silence, even in absence, even in sleep. There is a way of being that requires no striving, no proving, no endless availability. It is the way of wholeness. When you gather yourself back from the fragments scattered across the world, when you stop offering yourself as background noise, something shifts. You become like a mountain, steady, unmoving, drawing the gaze without calling for it. This is the quiet gravity of wholeness. There was once a hermit who lived in silence atop a hill. He did not seek disciples, did not call for followers, did not speak unless asked. Yet over time, villagers climbed the hill to sit near him. They said they felt peace simply in his presence, even without words. The hermit had no need to be endlessly available, no need to scatter himself. His wholeness carried a gravity that drew others naturally. So it is with you. When you stop scattering yourself thin, when you return to your center, you do not become invisible, you become magnetic. Others notice not because you demand it, but because wholeness shines quietly, like the moon's light upon the dark sea. Pause here. Inhale as though gathering your scattered pieces back into your heart. Exhale as though sealing them gently, becoming whole again. Inhale wholeness. Exhale gravity. Feel the steadiness rising within you. In Buddhist teaching, wholeness is the ground of liberation. When you are fragmented, chasing approval, fearing absence, your mind is restless, your heart unsettled. But when you gather yourself, when you rest in your true being, suffering eases. The world responds differently. Because you are no longer begging to be seen, you are seen naturally. There is a parable of a potter who shaped clay vessels for the market. One day, he made a bowl so perfect in form that it seemed to sing when struck. He placed it quietly among the others, saying nothing. Yet all who passed by were drawn to it. The other pots shouted with color and decoration, but it was the silent bowl that people carried home. Its wholeness was its voice. So too with your presence. You need not shout with constant yes, nor decorate yourself with endless doing. Your wholeness speaks more clearly than any noise. Breathe again. Inhale the quiet strength of the mountain. Exhale the scattered winds that once carried you thin. Inhale presence. Exhale rest. Imagine now that you are sitting at the edge of a still lake. The water mirrors the sky perfectly, so calm that it seems infinite. Birds pause in their flight to see themselves reflected in the surface. Animals come to drink, not because the lake calls them, but because its stillness offers what they need. You too may be like this lake. In your wholeness, you need not chase. Life comes to you. Perhaps you have spent years scattering yourself to be noticed, believing that love or respect could only be won by constant presence. But the truth is simpler, gentler. When you stop being endlessly available, when you return whole, the right people remain, the right love endures, the right respect arises. Wholeness has a gravity that needs no effort. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." When you gather yourself, when you rest in your center, you carry peace like a mountain, like a lake, like the silent bowl. Others may come and go, but your wholeness remains. So, as you rest tonight, let go of the need to chase. Allow yourself to return whole. You are not valued because you scatter yourself. You are valued because you are real, complete, and steady. Your wholeness has gravity. It will draw what is meant for you and release what is not. Breathe softly now. Inhale wholeness, steady and calm. Exhale scattering, light and gone. Inhale gravity. Exhale rest. And in this rhythm, feel yourself settling into peace, held by the quiet strength of your true being. Now we come to the gentle close of this journey. You have walked through the struggles of endless availability, the fear of being forgotten, the courage to say no, the beauty of rhythm, the gift of solitude, the quiet gravity of wholeness. And now, here, at the end, there is nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove, nothing left to carry. There is only rest. There was once a monk who asked his teacher, "What is enlightenment?" The teacher replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The monk frowned, thinking the answer too simple. But as years passed, he came to see the wisdom. True peace is not found in striving, but in being. To live fully is not to burn endlessly for others, nor to vanish completely, but to rest in the natural rhythm of life, to eat when hungry, to sleep when tired, to give when full, to pause when empty. So tonight, allow yourself this simplicity. You need not hold the world upon your shoulders. You need not scatter yourself to be loved. You need only to rest, to breathe, to be. Pause here. Inhale gently, as though filling your heart with peace. Exhale slowly, as though laying down the burdens of the day. Inhale rest. Exhale surrender. Let your body soften. Let your mind grow quiet. Let your spirit sink into ease. In Buddhist teaching, nirvana is not a place far away, but the extinguishing of the restless flame of grasping. It is the peace that comes when we stop chasing and simply dwell in the moment. Tonight, you are invited into that peace. You are invited to let go of the constant need to be available, to allow yourself the gift of rest. There is a parable of a weary traveler who carried a heavy pack for years. He refused to set it down, fearing he would lose his way if he let go. One evening, exhausted, he stumbled upon a clearing by a river. At last, he set the pack upon the ground and lay beneath the stars. In that moment, he realized he had not lost his way. He had found it. The way was rest. The way was peace. So too with you. You have carried much. You have given much. Now is the time to set it down. Now is the time to rest. Breathe again. Inhale the night sky above you, vast and eternal. Exhale the pack from your shoulders, heavy no more. Inhale peace. Exhale release. Imagine now that you are lying in a meadow beneath the stars. The air is cool, the earth soft beneath you. The sky stretches wide, filled with countless points of light. You feel the vastness above and the steadiness below, and between them, you rest. No one calls for you. No one pulls at you. The world is whole, and so are you. In this stillness, you realize that you do not need to be endlessly available to belong. You already belong. You are already home. The Buddha once said, Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Tonight, you have touched that peace, not by striving, not by scattering, but by returning to yourself, by allowing rest. So as you drift into sleep, let the words of this journey fade like gentle echoes. Let the stories become dreams, the breaths become tides, the silence become comfort. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You are whole. You are steady. You are enough. Breathe softly now. Inhale rest. Exhale surrender. Inhale peace. Exhale sleep. And as your body sinks into stillness, know this: you do not need to be endlessly available to be loved. You are loved as you are, whole and true, here and now. Rest. Dear one, rest deeply, rest completely, rest in the truth of your being.